is The Rich Eisen Show.
Do you have the damn music?
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
My follically challenged friend, Rich Eisen.
Today's guests, MMQB senior writer Albert Breer, The Athletic NBA insider Shams Charania, New Orleans Saints punter Thomas Morstead, Sports Illustrated senior writer Pat Forde, plus Hammer and Hank Goldberg previews the Belmont Stakes. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
All right, everybody. Well, everyone's accused me of a lot of having everything a little left on this show for a very long time. So there you go. It's all par for the course. As TJ Jefferson just missed the pot. It's all good. Hey, everybody, welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. It's kind of old school, if you want to call early April of this year old school, but 2 months really feels like two generations these days. It's just us. It's just us chickens, if you will, in the 454 grouping in the wormhole, and Sirius XM Channel 211. Dan Patrick Show just concluded. We're on the air after them every single day. Now that's old school. And so because NBCSN has got some Premier League action going down, so they sent us off the pitch for a day. We're off. Do we get yellow carded or red carded? Yellow carded means we
yellow
can come
card
back.
we can still play.
All right, so that's good. Just been yellow carded.
Yeah, so we're just
very good. So Brockman and Del Tufo are in their usual spot. I am here.
What's happening?
I'm here. You're there.
I'm here and you're there, and we're over here.
844-204-RICH. We're gonna have a lot of time for your calls, even though we got five guests. We're five wide today. We're gonna talk some football first up. It's been too long. Albert Breer will join us on this program.
Just no Tom Brady pictures of him in the Bucs uniform, please, today. That's all I ask.
We never see enough.
I mean, that was the top NFL story of the day yesterday, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Brady, and
yeah. Pewter.
Well, this was his posting of it.
I know.
Look at that.
All caps LFG. So just in case you're wondering, Chris, if he's going to bring his brand.
Come on.
If you're going to bring, you were wondering, is the Crazy Train might not be played, but is he going to come out and run to the corner of the end zone and yell at the folks in Raymond James, let's go? There won't be any folks, most likely, but, will he still do the whatever, gets him going?
Right.
And clearly the answer is yes. If it's LFG, he's bringing the Brady brand, all of it.
Are they still going to fire the cannon on the ship? Is someone's going to...
By the way, LFG, for anybody wondering, says let the flag go. You just right.
Yeah. Didn't Edelman?
That was so funny when Brady won his MVP award. You were my +1 at that NFL honors that 2 years ago in
Minnesota.
Was it Minnesota or Atlanta?
It was
Minnesota. Okay,
it was Minnesota.
That was it. You're my +1. We have a
great
better seat than
seats.
Jalen
Oh, my
Ramsey.
gosh.
It was great.
Phenomenal.
We were giving
right behind
him grief.
Jerry Jones.
We were giving him grief. And Edelman accepts the award for most valuable player from Brady and said, Tom told me LFG. I don't know what that means, but LFG. And, the NFL Honors is not live. Right. The NFL Honors is pre-taped. And then
like 2 hours before.
Well, they try to keep it to time because there's not much time if it runs long to edit it down for broadcast. There's a 2-hour window on whatever network is hosting the Super Bowl the next day. They've got the honor show the night before. That's the way it works. And interestingly enough, I tuned in a couple hours later. The LFG had hit the cutting room floor. They decided that was part of couldn't make it.
Didn't make it.
Yeah.
It's great.
So Tom's bringing it. He's bringing the whole shtick with him. Yeah. So Albert Breer is going to be first up. And, there's so much to talk about with the NFL because the NFL has had a ton of time to figure out health and safety protocols. Their health and safety protocols for return to training camp is out, obviously, for actual play. That's to be determined. The NBA is first up on that front, and their return to play health and safety protocols for the Disney World bubble were made public yesterday.
It's bananas.
And the Athletic Shams Charania will join us to discuss it. No such health and safety protocols needed at the Belmont Stakes, with the exception of no fans this Saturday. The usual final leg of the Triple Crown will be the first leg of the Triple Crown, and the usual 1.5 miles will be just 1.125 miles. And as we speak right now, they're drawing post gate positions and post positions and all that good stuff.
All right, so I haven't seen any of the names.
I have.
You have?
And I'm fully confident you'll be able to pull this off.
Oh, there's no...
For those who might be new here,
there's no...
the annual tradition in the 6 years that we've been doing this now, coming up on 6 years, but this might be our 6th Belmont Stakes.
Belmont Stakes.
And we usually just hand the horses' names blindly to Chris Brockman, and it's a really great, fun, hooked on phonics endeavor. And it's great. So also, in terms of our history, Hank Goldberg, the legendary handicapper, he used to call in from South Florida. Now he's moved to Vegas. God bless him. Wow. And he'll be calling in, and he'll be giving us his picks. And he has made Rich Eisen show consumers real hard-earned American cash. Didn't we have one guy send us his winning ticket, said he bought a mattress?
He bought a new bed. Yeah.
Well, he bought a bed and the mattress. Now he could take the money that he won and put it under the mattress that he bought.
Sure.
Because there was enough left over. So Hank's going to give us winners. That's usually what he does. So Hank will join us. Then we got a punter, Thomas Morstead from the Saints. He's got a children's book. Punters are children's authors, too.
Hey, now.
And then Pat Forde will join us. And Pat will be joining us with the latest from college football and whether they'll play or not. And, man, did the real world kind of just come up and, we talk about sports bubbles. The real world kind of pierced Mike Gundy's bubble, whatever world he's living. He's living in his own world there. And, man, the real world just came up and gave Mike Gundy a breath of what everybody else is smelling. Now, look, everybody out there can watch OAN. I've never seen a second of it.
Me neither.
With the exception of videos that have been tweeted into my timeline.
Indeed.
So I've seen it. And, it's interesting that this photograph, they had a great day of fishing.
A lot of great fish.
A lot of great fishing.
Looks awesome.
Now, if you want to wear a T-shirt with 3 letters on it and one starts with an O and then the others are SU, that makes sense. And if Mike Gundy had only worn that, although, hey, look, apparently can take everything in here, that apparently everything's better for this happening for Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State. Because, man, Mike Gundy, who just started watching OAN, according to him, back in April when he dropped it in at the top of a Zoom press conference. Oh man, just started flipping around and turned on a channel, OAN, and hold on a second, Don. You turn on OAN and it just found it like, hey, they just tell the news the way it is. There's no slant at all. Now, every news outlet truly you can say has a bias to it, and that's the way things are going on in this world, is that your choice of news outlets can inform people how you view the world politically. There's no doubt about that. To turn that channel on and think it has no slant, no bias at all, could place that one aside. But any other, one would say, sentient human being who does take this stuff in would admit OAN makes Fox News on occasion look like MSNBC, to just use some letters in the news gathering world. Let's just call it as we see it here. To not kind of understand that this is a slant and a take on things, but you like it enough, put on a T-shirt, which you can do. Hey, Mike Gundy has every right to put that T-shirt on. There's no doubt about it. But he doesn't have a right to not understand at all, when you're the head coach of growing men and men of color, that might not be, what's the word for it, cool? The fact that this guy comes out and says, I didn't even know what their stance was on the subject matter of race. How much were you watching? Did you just watch it once and got the T-shirt? Is that it? So, He wears a T-shirt, and one of his players happens to be running back.
A very good one.
Pretty good one.
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard, there he is. I will not stand for this. This is completely insensitive to everything going on in society, and it's unacceptable. I will not be doing anything with Oklahoma State until things change. Now, Hubbard has every right to react this way, and you have every right to say, hey, this is a cancel culture that's going on right now. Well, he feels that people in the world, and based on what he might see from OAN, those people who watch that might kind of want to, what do you want to say, cancel him, like from the planet. You can get that sense. Are you a coach? My God, I heard you were 40. I heard you were 40 once upon a time. So that makes him, what, 45 now? If I'm just trying to do
No, he's 50.
He's 50. That's 10 years old now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The I'm a man speech is.
Oh, my goodness gracious me, oh, my.
Yeah.
Can't believe I'm spending time on stuff like this. But when a player in college football realizes, oh, wait a minute, I've got some sort of power, hand, to use the phrase. Because Mike Gundy started listening. There's a quick listening tour. Brush back the mullet to get those ears hearing. Listening tour begins. Okay, what do you got to say, young squire, on the subject of race? Something going on with race, you say? Now, people were a little disappointed because a video was put out, and Hubbard was standing with Gundy, and this is what happened.
In light of today's tweet with the T-shirt I was wearing, I met with some players and realized it's a very sensitive issue with what's going on in today's society. And so we had a great meeting and made aware of some things that players feel like that can make our organization or our culture even better than it is here at Oklahoma State. And I'm looking forward to making some changes, and it starts at the top with me, and we got good days ahead.
I'll start off by first saying that I went about it the wrong way by tweeting. I'm not someone that, has to, tweet something to make change. I should have went to him as a man, and I'm more about action. So that was bad on my part. But from now on, we're going to focus on bringing change, and that's the most important thing.
Now, I don't know what Hubbard has to apologize for, because I don't think if he went to Gundy and said, hey, man, what was that T-shirt all about? I think, we're all upset and we're going to have a conversation. Can you set up a Zoom? I don't know if we would have had that video where Gundy would say, I've realized my... And the issue is, again, is Gundy saying his piece and then turning to Hubbard and giving him a gesture like, okay, now you say what we talked about you were going to say. But if change is coming, that would be great, because that's what this is about eventually, is to have a conversation. It's just patently disappointing that somebody who is in a position of power, like a Power 5 big conference coach like Mike Gundy, does not realize. And again, he has every right to wear the T-shirt, but he's a coach of a major college football program that is in the middle of a country that is absolutely having conversations left, right, up, and down, and also is aflamed. And there are many players in his locker room who are black and are wondering about whether they are going to be dead behind the wheel of a car if circumstances come about. And T-shirts matter when you're a coach. Just ask Freddie Kitchens, who wore a T-shirt out to watch the Mr. Rogers movie that kind of poked fun of the Myles Garrett crowning situation. Remember that?
I forgot about that, yeah.
And it made him look like you don't know what you're doing. And he lost his gig eventually. And I bet that had part to do with it. Just like, come on. When you're a head coach of a major football program on planet Earth in America in the 21st century. What you do and what you wear and what you post, every single thing matters because it gives an indication to the world about how to grips you are with everything in the world. And clearly that didn't work, certainly enough on campus and maybe with his athletic director and maybe with the college school president, because Gundy came out yesterday. I mean, that kind of looked like what people were tweeting about, a hostage video. This one kind of looked a little bit Hale-Bopp Comet guy type look. Remember that? Remember that guy from back in the day? Take a look. This is what Gundy had to say, I believe, yesterday, right? He came out. This was something that came out yesterday. Here we go.
I had a great meeting with our team today. Our players expressed their feelings as individuals and as team members. They helped me see through their eyes how the T-shirt affected their hearts. Once I learned how that network felt about Black Lives Matter, I was disgusted and knew it was completely unacceptable to me. I want to apologize to all members of our team, former players, and their families for the pain and discomfort that has been caused over the last 2 days. Black Lives matter to me. Our players matter to me. These meetings with our team have been eye-opening and will result in positive changes for Oklahoma State football. I sincerely hope the Oklahoma State family, near and far, will accept my humble apology as we move forward.
Okay. I'm glad he said the words Black Lives Matter because that's truly what this is about. And many question about whether he believes it or not, and I hope he does, man. Just certainly for the kids in that program and wanting to get along with their coach, who they signed a letter of intent to play for. Clearly, they have bought what we sold in living rooms and in locker rooms and in film rooms. I hope for their sake. But again, I've never seen OAN, and many out there might have seen it. But from what people who do follow that stuff and tell me about it and what I have had tweeted in my timeline, if he did not know that OAN felt this way about the Black Lives Matter movement, it appears he missed prime time and drive time and morning time and lunchtime, overnights. But what this does prove is the players, you've got some power. You've got some power here. You don't like what's going on, you could speak up. You could keep your standing on campus. You could keep your scholarship. You could keep your reputation. You speak up. You don't like something, you speak up. That's the moral of that story. Pat Forde's going to join us on that front. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on this show. I wasn't planning on going all in. But maybe, part of me, as Albert Breer's about to call in, I'm still a little bit disillusioned with baseball out like it is. And Keith Olbermann coming on yesterday's show and saying yesterday, this back and forth isn't some sort of good faith negotiation, headbutting between owners and players. What this is a specific strategy that the owners are employing, and they think they're winning. And anybody out there that thinks that baseball is going to kind of have some sort of epiphany at the ownership level all of a sudden and want to make the best possible deal with players is out to lunch. And anybody who thinks that Rob Manfred is going to institute a playing season as a backstop and 100% there's going to be baseball because baseball knows it can't shoot itself in the foot like that is, I think, Bob Nightingale of USA Today, who has been, without a doubt, one of the top writers and columnists following the great sport of baseball. He was doing it when I was covering it. Was doing it before I was covering it. He's doing it now. He wrote a column basically saying that Manfred and baseball are going to have, there will be baseball because they know that their legacies are on the line. Yeah. And Oberman retweets it, calling it naive, saying if you don't think that owners are purposefully doing this, this is all part of a strategy that makes them think they're winning, you're naive. That's what KO came on this show yesterday and said.
Yep.
That there are some people sitting back there like the owners who need to pull the blinds because it's too light outside with Roy Hobbs winning baseball games on the field outside their office. Those baseball owners, like the ones from the Natural, trying to kill off the season because why in the world am I going to spend money on a season that no fans are going to go see and it's only a crapshoot that people will actually pay attention to my team after we suck after 20 games? Why would I want to throw good money after bad? Can you imagine? There are some owners out there who are thinking that right now. And SNY reported yesterday 6 to 8 of them.
Yeah. Are over this season.
Right. So if the number's 8, you need 23 of the 30 clubs to pass something. If it's 8, nothing's getting passed. 844-204-RICH number to dial here on the Rich Eisen Show. So can the NBA save us from all this stuff? Well, there's a whole bunch of health and safety protocols that were put out about playing and in the bubble world of Walt Disney World. And everybody's going to be taking a look at that. And I'm sure my bosses at 345 Park Avenue in the NFL is taking a look at all of these health and safety protocols. I am sure they're in touch with the Premier League that's starting back up today. I'm sure they're in touch with everybody. And here to talk about that and so many other issues involving the National Football League from Sports Illustrated, the man who writes those great pieces for MMQB.com, our friend, Albert Breer, back here on the show. How are you, Albert?
I'm good. How you doing, Rich?
I'm hanging in there. I just kind of got a little bit pissed by the whole Mike Gundy thing.
Gundy wormhole.
Did I go in a Gundy wormhole?
Yeah, didn't see that coming.
I didn't see. Well, I mean, I had to set the stage for Pat Forde later on, but what's going on the front of Colin Kaepernick, Albert? Let's just jump right in on that subject right off the bat. The commissioner going on ESPN on that return to sports special that had so many of the most powerful people in sports in front of Mike Greenberg's Q&A. So the commissioner said he's encouraging teams to sign him. What are things stand on that front right now?
Well, I think it's significant that he said it publicly. I do know that there were some people, at the league office in 16 and 17 that really wanted, Colin Kaepernick to find a home. And, they really felt like it would have been a good story for the league. But, I think, sort of the way things worked back then, I think it was seen as a way more negative story than it is now. And so, I think the fact that the commissioner feels comfortable coming out and saying it publicly is significant. And I think it also kind of provides cover for a team to come and sign him because, the commissioner was the first one to actually speak publicly at length about it the way that he did. And so, look, I think we've all acknowledged now, a big piece of this was always, in 16 and 17, a big piece of the reason why he couldn't find a home was because a lot of teams weren't willing to put up with everything that would come along with Colin Kaepernick, when most would have employed him as a backup quarterback. Now, if you look at all that stuff, that extra stuff that comes along with him, where I think a lot of that stuff was seen as negative back then. Now, I think for some teams in some markets, signing him would be a positive. It might be a PR win for some teams. And so I think that's sort of how the landscape's changed. It doesn't mean it's not complicated from here. But I do think that, what the commissioner came out and, said was reflective of a changing attitude across the league. And, the fact that he's willing to say it publicly instead of just having people in his office talk about it privately is significant too.
So here's the question, Albert, is we just don't know what Kaepernick thinks of all this, because even if there are a couple teams that say, definitely let's get him, because yesterday I made a point, and I think Peter King has made the point, I'm sure you have too, that, you know, in the COVID-19 2020 NFL season, and as we've seen with the NBA, multiple positives will not shut down the sport. They're going to try and figure this thing out, either on the fly or with as much of a plan in place in advance. The NFL the same way. Dr. Alan Sills, the chief medical officer, is on the show. I mentioned about having like a COVID-19 protocol similar to the concussion protocol. Someone has to clear it to return. He said yes, that a third string quarterback even could play a significant role for a team in 2020 NFL season. The question is, though, is what does Kaepernick want? What does he want? He hasn't said a word on this front. What do you think he wants? Colin, you hear anything I don't know. Albert on this front?
I mean, I wish I had a better answer for you. I mean, I think really kind of the operative things here, though. Number one, we've seen the NFL find a way to manufacture jobs for guys in the past, right? It happened with Michael Sam, to a degree with the Cowboys in 2014. And so, if that's part of this, how does Kaepernick look at that? You know what I'm saying? Like, does he look at that and say, well, this isn't on the up and up. This smells funny. I don't want to do it. So there's that element of it, like how this whole thing kind of, if there is a job offer, how it just sort of manifests itself. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, is he willing to go in somewhere on low money with no guarantee of a job? I think it's important to remember, as last year in the league, he was in the trade block. He was benched in the middle of the season, and so, I think by definition, at the very end, he was seen as a backup quarterback, and now he's been out of the league for 3 years, and so, I mean, look, he could get into camp and kill it. I mean, it's possible that he finds a home and it's awesome. But it's also possible that the 3 years have taken its toll. And so is he comfortable going somewhere knowing there's no guarantee that he's going to have a job in September just because he's there in July? And on the other side of that, is a team willing to take on the fact that if you do wind up cutting him at the end of training camp, that could create a problem for you. So, I think those are some of the complications that I think that everybody sort of has to work through. But I think that only Colin can answer, what he actually wants. And, I think if it's purely, I just want a shot to win a job. I just want a shot to get into a training camp and win a job. I certainly think that opportunity will probably be out there for him. And it'll just be, I would love to see it because I would love to see, I remember what he was in 2012 and 2013.
He's amazing. He's done
even if there's 60, even if there's a piece of that magic left, it will be fun to watch.
Well, and plus, you want to talk about wanting to prove something. Again, just the question is the offering of a job, if he feels it's a token gesture, he's not going to take it, and he shouldn't. But there's really no such thing as a token gesture in 2020 NFL. Again, one quarterback can test positive. Exactly. This is a significant necessity to get as many quarterbacks that can play the game on your team, don't you think? In this year, for sure.
No question. And here, it's interesting. I think was it Bruce Arians? There was someone else that said publicly, talked about quarantining a quarterback. Right? There were two coaches last week that talked about that. I've heard multiple teams talk about the idea of having meetings with their quarterbacks in separate rooms. Because it'd be risky to have them together all the time. If, say, one of the guys gets it, even if he's asymptomatic, you increase the likelihood that you wipe out your entire quarterback room. You wipe out your quarterback room, you're screwed. And so I certainly think there exists this possibility where if I'm one of these teams, maybe I'm bringing 5 quarterbacks to camp, Rich, because I just want to have 5 quarterbacks that know my system.
You bet.
Knowing I might cut 2 of them, but those 2 guys are out there on the street, and I know I've got those guys sort of in reserve if there's some sort of outbreak, on my team. And so I'm with you. I think that there's going to be those sorts of opportunities out there for guys. And again, I think that the question then becomes, under what context does Colin want to return to the league? I think that's the question that's, I think, only he can answer.
Well, Anthony Lynn has just been quoted as saying Kaepernick fits the style of quarterback the Chargers want, and they have on a potential quote-unquote workout list. And again, Tyrod Taylor is your current starting quarterback right there. And so it sure looks like, and again, Los Angeles would be a city, I think, that would absolutely have no issue with Colin Kaepernick getting a gig here. And I'm sure there were others who would disagree with this. But the bottom line is the guy is good enough and has played in a Super Bowl. And this year, we have more opportunities for any quarterback than I can remember to play a significant role, an important role. That would be, and of course, Anthony Lynn being a person of color at the head coaching spot to say that he wants to do it and that he would be the guy to do it. Let's roll, right? I mean, that would be...
Yeah. Yeah, I would love the idea of it. Here's the problem, though. The problem with that, Rich, is like, what's his chance of making the team there? If you assume like Tyrod Taylor is on the roster, right, because he's your starter right now, Justin Herbert isn't going anywhere.
Correct.
As your second string guy, or potentially your starter because you drafted him 5th overall, but obviously he's going to be on the team. And then, Easton Stick is a guy who I know a lot of people haven't heard of, but they spent a year in developing. And so, I think that's going to be sort of, I think for any player, in this sort of position, it's, where do I have the best chance of making the team? And I'm with you on everything you said, about like the potential opportunity with the Chargers there. But is that the best situation for Cap? And I think that, like, if you look at it across the NFL, there might be better chances for him to make a team, get on the field somewhere, rather than the Chargers. But I'm with you as far as just the logistics, the way that sets up, that it would make sense for a few different reasons.
Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. And then, oh, by the way, there is a former MVP still out there who is in Los Angeles. We saw him working out with Odell Beckham. What is the scoop with Cam Newton as we're talking about so many different opportunities for quarterbacks? Yeah. But I assume he's waiting for the Teddy Bridgewater type injury that would happen, and he would then swoop in. Is that his plan right now, to get a gig in 2020?
Yeah. So what I've heard on him is that he's told people around him, and I'm sorry, I'm outside and there's cars around, so you guys can hear that in the background.
It's all good, Albert. It's all good. You're about the hustle and bustle anyway. With Cam, it's I have heard that he's told people around him that he's not really interested right now in going to a place where he would be sort of the firm number 2 or a mentor to a young quarterback. Like, that's not the sort of job that he's looking for. And so, would he go somewhere as a backup? Maybe. But I don't think he's going to go to a backup where he's firmly the number 2 and the only chance you're going to play is if something catastrophic happens with the starter. And so, I think that's why he's content to sit, sort of wait this thing out a little bit. And, then you get to training camp, and one of two things has to happen. Either you've got a team like a New England, a Denver, a Jacksonville, where they got a young quarterback in place and maybe things don't play out the way that they thought they would with the young quarterback because they haven't had him in the spring and everything else. Or someone gets hurt, like you said, like a Ryan Tannehill situation from a few years ago when Jay Cutler came in, like the Bridgewater situation. And so, it seems like for right now, Cam's content to wait for something like that to pop up in the summer. It's risky, of course, but I think he not only wants to be on a team in 2020, he wants to play in 2020. Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. And what are you hearing about the 2020 stuff? You heard on our buddy Lock and Four's local show in Baltimore, John Harbaugh say some of the health and safety protocols just merely for training camp were impossible. Yeah. Impossible. Nothing's going to be perfect here, certainly in a sport where a huddle or merely getting a set over a football, there's no social distancing whatsoever. So what are you hearing about this, Albert?
What I've heard now, like, is this is sort of a preliminary list of protocols, and this is going to allow the teams to prepare for training camp. And to some degree, I think it was a press release too, and like letting the public know and letting the players know and letting everyone know how seriously they're going to be taking this when we do get to training camp. There are things that would be logistically very difficult. The limits on meetings, obviously, the limits on, what you can do in a locker room. I talked to one head coach who, said, like, we're going to need 3 locker rooms based on our own logistics to make it work. I think for each of these teams, there's, challenges that are going to be very, very difficult to deal with. Just based on the way the sport is and based on the way these facilities are set up and everything else. That said, while every coach I talked to over the last week agreed with Harbaugh, I think there's also this feeling that a month from now, we're going to have more information than we do right now. And so there's certainly the possibility that some of these things are tweaked or adjusted based on what we see in, say, the Premier League or what we see in, say, the Bundesliga in Germany, or maybe some of the information they're able to gather when NBA teams and NHL teams get back practicing. I guess there's not much hope for baseball, but I think there is that feeling. There is that feeling that they're going to have more information about a month from now.
So what's the big story outside of anything that I've just asked you? Because, the Dak signing for the Cowboys, that's July 15th. That's like a million light years away based on everything else that we're talking about right now. Is there anything else that I'm missing that we're not hitting on? Because the collective bargaining agreement, thank goodness you've seen what's going on with baseball. Could you imagine if that thing had not passed shortly before the pandemic hit?
Yeah.
And what the conversations would be like on both sides to try and get everybody in? Or are there going to be conversations like that? You're already seeing the NBA and the NBA PA. They are lockstep, but there was a little bit of a hiccup. You're seeing what's going on with baseball. Is there any issue you think that we're going to encounter on that front with the NFL here?
Well, it's funny. It's funny, Richard. I talked to somebody at the union. This was probably like a couple weeks ago. I said things seem like remarkably, civil between the players and the league. And the response I got is, that's because we haven't talked about the money yet. So I think that eventually is going to have to come. But it's different than in other sports. So in other sports, they're talking about current year money, right? Like baseball, basketball, hockey. Some of those discussions are about current year money. For the NFL, it's really going to affect the 2021 cap more. And so the negotiations that are going to have to take place are, how do we make sure that there's not a fall in the cap in 2021, which is probably going to mean borrowing money from future years. And so that's going to mean the cap could be affected 2 and 3 years out based on how much revenue they lose in 2020. So those are the sorts of things they have to discuss. I don't think that's going to get in the way of camp or the season starting on time, but there are some hard discussions that they're going to need to have. And then other than that, I think there are, some intriguing storylines. You mentioned Dak Prescott. Jadeveon Clowney's another one. He's still out there, former number 1 overall pick. And then I think the mess that the start of camp's going to be, where I think you're going to see a lot more roster churning than you normally see, just because a lot of these teams haven't seen their rookies physically yet. They haven't seen some of the free agents they signed. And so I think we could see a lot of roster churning at the start of training camp, which is going to make for a very, very busy July and August for a lot of teams. And then I would say, the one thing everybody needs to be ready for is how the COVID-19, protocols are going to reach into reserve list, and how the league's going to allow for teams to have almost taxi squads of players available, or how they're going to be able to manage it if there's an outbreak on the roster. Because everybody knows, you have 53 guys on a roster when the season starts. This thing hits 12. This thing, you have 12 guys test positive. Even if they're asymptomatic, you're probably going to have to shelve them. And that's a devastating loss for a team. So how do you manage that? So that's some of the stuff that they're going to have. They still have to work through. They haven't worked through yet as far as the, specific coronavirus protocols.
And I've got Thomas Morstead on at the top of our final hour, the punter from the Saints. What are you hearing about the the, I guess, aftermath of Breeze, his comments to Yahoo Finance, and then his apology publicly on various social medias, and then to his teammates. What are you hearing about the aftermath there, if there is one?
Yeah, I talked to Mario Davis about this last week, and, I think it's sort of like, for him it was, he's taking Breeze at his word, but he wants to see Breeze involved. And I think that's sort of where the conversation, has changed, and where, players are right now is, I think sort of standing on the sideline isn't okay anymore, and I think we're going to see that reflected in whatever sort of protests we see when we get to September, that players are really looking for full participation from other guys who may not have been inclined to participate in the past. And so I think that's part of the fallout for Breeze. I mean, look, he's got 19 years of capital built up as an NFL player, capital built up in the Saints locker room. They know who he is. But I think now, the next step becomes sort of critical for Drew in showing the players showing the other players in that locker room he's behind them. Because I think the one takeaway that guys like Malcolm Jenkins and Mario and the rest of them had when they watched the Breeze video was, he hasn't listened to us. And so now I think it's on Breeze to show, no, I have been listening to you. I do care about what you guys are talking about, and here's how I'm going to show you.
Albert, you're the best. Really appreciate this. Normally, I would say this stuff off the air, but I just want to bring it on the air since, I don't know the next time we're going to talk. But the next time you're on this show, I am going to require you to sign a waiver, but I'm going to call it a pledge, the Rich Eisen Show pledge. You're going to have to sign the pledge. If you can have your family members sign it as well, that would be also required. But again, it's we don't view it as a legal document here. It's just a pledge to the Rich Eisen Show, Albert. Yeah. Okay, just want to let you know.
I'm gonna take my time on responding to this, and I'm gonna see what comes from up north, because it might not be that different than what comes from south of the border.
No, it might. It
might not be. It may not be much different. Let's just bide our time here, Rich, before we take shots. How about that?
Are you saying that liability may be a concern on every college campus football program?
I'm just saying, like, these things will become public over time, and it's a weird world out there right now. Let's just put it that way.
So, are you saying you're not signing the Rich Eisen Show pledge? That's not really a waiver.
I'd say, you know what, Rich. Let's just say I've taken it under advisement, and I'll get back to you.
Couldn't help yourself.
You know what? Just wanted to let you know. We're going to ask that, and we're going to ask it of all our guests, okay? All of our guests, just to make sure that we're all in the clear. All right, Albert.
Let's just say, let's just say, Rich, there's probably a 17-1 chance that I signed that.
Wow. That was excellent.
I gave you.
Done,
I should have just hung up. I should have just hung up.
Well done.
Okay. Take care, Albert. You take care.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Have a good one.
That's Albert Breer. We should make him sign a waiver.
We should,
but it's really a pledge.
We should come up with one. I think we've got some time today.
Yeah, you got to be careful, because I think many schools might have the same sensibility of a pledge that's not really a waiver.
I believe so.
Albert Breer, everybody.
It's going to be a weird football season, pro and college.
See, now, Michael Del Tufo, Albert went to Ohio State. Okay.
Oh, gosh.
All right. He went.
I have no team.
So that's where, it's not like, hey, I grew up in New Jersey and I had no other options other than Rutgers. So.
I mean, in this theory,
yes,
you should be a Met fan.
Why?
I think Shea's probably closer.
I mean, as the crow flies?
Yeah, we got to do some. Let's do some measurements.
The old Shea to Yankee?
Yeah, the old Shea.
Right,
again, the reason why. The reason why. Again.
No, it's up.
It used to be It used to be in New York City. You rooted for teams that played in one stadium. That's why Yankees, Giants, Met were always the sort of
Rangers,
spheres of
Yankees,
influence.
yeah.
Right.
Giants.
You were a Ranger, Yankee, Giant.
Giant.
Because the Giants, New York football Giants, used to play in the old Yankee Stadium.
And the Jets played in Shea.
In Shea, correct.
Yep,
so
I saw
those are the
them there.
reasons why, I'll root for some reason. That's our generation. That's now totally
it's gone.
But the reason why I was a Yankee Jet Ranger.
Yeah, how'd you get it? Yeah.
My brother, diehard Met fan. And
Opposite.
no, he was Jet Met Ranger. He was he was kind of we didn't root for the Islanders.
Oh no, I mean,
No, because again, that's Long Island.
I know
Staten
one
Island
fan.
is New York City. All right. Again, just
technically.
go see the King of Staten Island. Everyone should go get it. Our friend Bill Burr, who killed it yesterday, is dynamite in it. Judd Apatow's been on it, and it's part of New York City. It's a New York City borough. There's one of 5 boroughs in Staten Island. Is one of them.
It's the distant fifth.
So I grew up seeing my brother miserable. I'm a 7-year-old boy smart enough to see my brother at age 9 in 1976 miserable. So I said, there's another team, right? And Chris Chambliss hit a home run against the Kansas City Royals, and people are just starting to stream the field. And I remember watching that team win a pennant, and that was exciting. The whole city was talking about it. And I said, let's see what this team is all about. And they got waxed by the Big Red Machine in the 1976 World Series. Swept. Adios. And then a straw that stirred the drink strolled into town. Catfish Hunter had also shown up. Loved Thurman Munson. Loved this team. They started winning. They win the World Series. Reggie hits 3 home runs in the series clincher. And that was it. Adios Mets. I'm like, you go enjoy Tom Seaver being traded to the Reds.
Okay, so
for Pat Zachary.
I don't
You
know
gotta be
where
kidding
you.
me.
I don't know where you lived on Staten Island.
Right in the
What do we
center.
got?
Okay,
Willowbrook, the
all right.
Willowbrook section of Staten
All right,
Island, right in the middle.
So from the middle of Staten Island to Yankee Stadium, the quickest driving route is
please.
is 29 miles,
Yep.
and then to Citi Field, which was right where Shea
It's
was.
right. It's actually correct.
It's 36 miles.
All right, so
Yankee Stadium's technically close.
Even as the crow flies, I was smart, and you can't get out of the fact that you're a Fugazi Notre Dame person because you never went there, and I understand that your
First year
family
that
loved
you
it.
started liking the Yankees, I started liking Notre Dame. Same year,
Right.
76, 77.
Right. So that's why I'm the rare. For some reason,
And
though,
that's a long time.
and again, the Jets had Richard Todd, and they were winning football
yeah,
games
the
much
Jets
better
were-
than the Giants,
the
and then
Giants.
until Phil Simms showed up,
Yep.
and then Parcells was part of the Ray Perkins
yeah.
staff, and then the Jets went to the
Jets were
AFC
the 70s.
Championship game in the early '80s, and that's when
Yep.
Don Shula, may he rest in peace, left the tarp off the field in the Orange Bowl because Freeman McNeil and the Jets were coming to town, and he wanted to make sure that that running game wasn't very good. Should we ask that Hank Goldberg in the next hour if his buddy really did that?
Yep.
His late friend, may he rest in peace, Don Shula, really did that?
That was a great trick back
Because,
then.
and then A.J. Dewey picked off Richard Todd 1,000,000 times, and that was all she wrote. And the Jets never made it back to an AFC Championship game till Parcells brought him there in 1998. But who's counting? And the Giants won all those championships in between, and I never jumped off the bandwagon.
I went back and forth. Yankees, Mets, then Yankees again.
Again, that makes sense. Though it makes total sense that you do that sort of thing. That you're a diehard Yankee fan,
I like the
and
Mets
that
in the
hey,
80s.
I'll take credit for the K corner. It makes sense.
Well,
it makes
New
sense
York
that you're
Times
also
article.
you're also season ticket holder of the Raiders and the Rams, and that you'd sell your tickets just for a mere $100.
I'm a Rams fan.
I understand.
now.
Oh, please.
I am. I have never had a team. I've never had a football team.
You know, it's kind of crazy. The number of crap moments that he gives you crap for Eli Manning, I would think he's a Giant fan.
That's what I always thought.
Until you basically shocked me 2 weeks ago. Like, I am not a Giants
cheer
fan.
for every team that plays the Patriots.
Because you're just a hater.
I don't like the Patriots. It's not being a hater.
I believe
But
that's
actually,
the
by the
exact
way,
definition.
my hate for the Patriots went down a little. Brady's in Tampa Bay now. I'm happy. Once that uniform was shown yesterday, I'm good.
So what if the Patriots make the Super Bowl? Would you?
I
root-
said that Stidham's going to go 12-4.
No, but I'm saying, like, would
the
you
one that's
root for them?
predicting they're gonna-
By the way, what was the...
Oh, no. I mean...
Hey, before we get to our friend who always has a great sports talk radio chit-chat, what was the final results of our poll yesterday when that fella from Arkansas
Oh, so
told you
I,
that he was giving you, your Patriots, the entire decade in front of us against the AFC field. He was going to take the AFC field to keep the Patriots out of the Super Bowl. That the Patriots won't get back to the Super Bowl until Steven Belichick takes them there in 2031. So
I put up what's a more crazy NFL futures bet for the next 10 years? Patriots reach Super Bowl, Cowboys reach Super Bowl.
See, but
you had brought
that's
up
how you put it up. Is what's the crazier bet? It's like, which one would you take? Whatever. It's
the same.
Is that what it is? I'm not again. So that shows you I don't understand. Is that the gambling term? What's crazy meaning?
No, I'm just saying like what's a crazier bet? Like what is a worse bet?
Oh,
essentially.
Okay.
Cowboys won 58%, so more people would bet the Patriots to make it in the next 10 years than the Cowboys.
I'm glad you said that because I wouldn't have understood what that meant.
Yeah.
I would take the Patriots in the next 10 years over the Cowboys too.
You would?
Because of Belichick.
But they don't have a better roster than the Cowboys.
Who had a better roster than the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East last year? Nobody. Who had a better roster than Dallas Cowboys in the, let's go here, hold on to say AFC South?
I mean, at least they have a head coach now.
But it's not, don't go in on the clapper. Joe Judge's offensive coordinator. Wait till Daniel Jones comes into the Dallas Metroplex.
Because there's no pressure on Jason Garrett now.
Maybe that's the role he should play, right?
Exactly. You may not want it.
But I'll tell you what, man.
I'll tell you what, man.
When it comes to the hoodie, we are all sitting back here thinking, and I'm one of them. Well, I said, welcome to the rest of us. Welcome to the rest of us. Look it up here on our YouTube stream. That video's out there. I invite you. That was my first thought when Brady officially left the fold to go to Tampa. Turned to a New Englander, and I said, welcome to the rest of us.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Correct. Where all things are equal. Where everything that usually doesn't affect the Patriots now will.
You don't know. We don't know that yet.
Even when I was saying that, you look up the video, I'm fully confident. And when I say things into this microphone, I mean it.
Stidham could be the next Brady.
Even just a little part of me, a little wee bit part of me, a little bit thinks, how can I possibly say this when it comes to Bill Belichick?
Doesn't need Vinatieri to win games for him. Watch, Stidham's going to be great.
You're just a hater. If you just admit it, we can all move on.
By the way, why can't he be? I'm serious. I know
he's trolling. He's trolling with Vinatieri
with his little Muttley laugh over there. But I'll tell you what, man. Why can't Stidham be that good?
I mean, he can. We'll see what happens.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. He could
first round arm. They always said
that's what I'm saying. You don't.
First round arm.
Belichick is still there. I am not cheering against him yet.
Nobody knows anything when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks.
Jeff in Detroit, what's up, Jeffrey? How you been?
I am seriously sitting up here going over my head. Penelope pit stop.
Yeah, you like that, mother.
Oh, my God. The reference is awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, guys, how you doing today?
Jeff, what
Better
up,
for
baby?
talking to you. You sound great, man.
Listen, you got me pulled over yesterday.
Uh-oh.
That Bill Burr interview was so funny.
It was.
I pulled over to the side and put my face in my hands. I was crying.
He was on fire yesterday. Bill was on fire.
The police officer pulls up. He says, everything okay, man? I turned. I said, I'm just listening to Bill Burr on Rich Eisen, man. It was really, 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 really funny.
Fantastic.
Really funny. Hey, listen, as far as, what's his name, Mike Gundy goes.
Oh, please.
That's silly, man. That is just silly. That's like a drummer from the JD Straight Shots coming up in the band with the Rich Eisen shirt on. Oh, I don't listen to his program or anything like that.
I just discovered it. I had no idea what he thought about our lead singer. It's brilliant. That is a great,
really, really funny
analogy. That's a great analogy.
Matt Stafford or Matt in Atlanta. Which one you got?
You know they're best friends, right?
Yeah,
they're like tight.
I do.
So which
Matt? I have a friend from Atlanta. We argue all the time.
Oh,
who do we got? What, Jeff? Can we put some parameters on this? Is like for the next 5 years, rest of their career?
Let's give them a 3-year window. Who wins the most in the next 3 years?
I'll take Stafford. Who wins the most, though? I'd take Ryan.
Well, tougher division.
I know, but
Ryan.
I know, but I still need to see.
Hopefully, we can keep heaping this hatred upon Aaron Rodgers and have one less person to worry about.
I had my fun with Mike Zimmer when he was on a couple of weeks ago about, hey, you were the one who traded with San Francisco to take Ayuk, which might have sent the Packers to Jordan Love. How happy are you about that? And I finally got something out of him. I just don't think that that's going to be tearing Green Bay asunder right now. Oh, man.
Wishful thinking.
Stafford's younger. Isn't Stafford younger? I mean, wouldn't you?
Stafford, 32.
Are you standing up for Stafford in this conversation?
Oh,
with your
I am.
Okay.
I am. Matt is a really, really good guy. Met him in person, honestly.
Well, so is Ryan, if you want to talk about, like, good humans, and that's why they're friends with each other. And
Ryan, 35, so Matt's 3
I got to
years
take
older.
Stafford.
Yeah.
I'll take Stafford. I'll take your guy. How does that sound?
Book it. My uncle.
Especially since, naturally, I'm partial to Ryan. Thank you very much, Jeff. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then I tried to have Stafford pick up that mantle.
Rich, you got to move on. You got to move on.
Will you play the one where
Nobody
he
is
says,
interested in the match-roll.
Will you at least do me the favor of playing the one where he tells me I love you, but
it doesn't.
You don't
exist.
have it there, huh?
I don't even remember that. Weird.
Okay, when we come back, Shams Charania of The Athletic will join us on what the NBA is ready to do. Mike, you are our Walt Disney World expert.
Yes.
Okay. 3 hotels have been chosen to house the NBA teams.
I have.
I want to throw them at you, and which one you would go to. And I have actually gotten the actual Expedia.com reviews. Oh, yeah. And Hank Goldberg's going to pick us a winner from the Belmont. And you at 844-204-RICH. We'll be right back with Hour 2 here on our YouTube stream at SiriusXM. Larry David, we've done this before with you.
Yeah.
I've got 3 social situations. You are the judge and jury as to what is done.
Okay.
The first one is destination weddings. Okay.
It's already funny.
Destination weddings. I say to my wife, we're going to a destination wedding. We should not give a present because my presence is my present. What do you say, Larry David?
First of all, where is the wedding? How far is it?
Another country.
Okay, you don't even go. You don't go. You don't go.
But it's a close family friend.
I don't care. I am not flying 14 hours on a plane to somebody's wedding. I'm not going to do that.
What the distance from your house that you would
An hour and a half by car. That's it.
Here's social situation number 2 for you, Larry David.
Sure.
So you're going into somebody's house for, let's say, the fight, the Mayweather-McGregor fight. This happened to one of our producers, Ken Tulo, okay? They brought desserts. Fight ends. Nobody's touched the desserts. They like these desserts. Is it okay to take the desserts home?
It's a
perishable.
You're bringing it to the host, right?
That's true.
The host saw it. Mm-hmm. It's different if the host didn't see it, then you could sneak out with it.
So if the host never saw it, if you placed it on the table and there's no note, that's when you could take it.
If you think you're not going to get caught, then you could take it.
All right, the last one for you, Larry, LD, shoes off on a plane. Do you have a problem with somebody on a plane?
I have the big problem with it. Yeah. You know, don't make yourself. It's not your house. All right, you're outside. You're in public. I don't want to see your socks. And God forbid you have a little odor down there. Who needs that, right?
And I don't even want to know if you do have it.
Exactly. It's close quarters. Come on. Take a couple of minutes. Keep your shoes on.
is The Rich Eisen Show.
Do you have the damn music?
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
Methodically challenged friend, Rich Eisen.
Earlier on the show, MMQB senior writer Albert Breer. Coming up, The Athletic NBA insider Charania. New Orleans Saints punter Thomas Morstead. Sports Illustrated senior writer Pat Forde. Plus, Hammer and Hank Goldberg previews the Belmont Stakes. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Welcome to the second hour of the Rich Eisen Show. We're live on the air. Great chat with Albert Breer on what's going on in the NFL world. And Albert seems like he's going to take it under advisement whether he's going to sign the Rich Eisen Show pledge that we swear is not a waiver.
We swear.
Oh man, I enjoyed that.
Farewell, I know that you did. Because I know. Here's how I know that you enjoyed it. You looked at me as we were saying goodbye to Albert, and you gave me like the eyebrow raise, like
here,
watch this. Yeah, that's how I knew that you really had something cooking.
I have a tell with you. Like I want to give you a heads up. Like, hey, get ready to react. Want to make sure you're out there because I know you got you're doing so many different things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And now Don Bowie is putting up on the screen my payment in full to
4 years ago.
to Graham Rahal, diehard Ohio. Now Graham is a Fugazi. He's Fugazi. I mean, he's from Columbus, I guess, and his dad loves it, whatever. But he
didn't go to college. I mean, did he go to college? He went right into professional racing.
I don't think he went to the Ohio State. At any rate, we've got lots to get to here on the show. 844-204-RICH. We take your phone calls throughout this day. But the NBA, you know, as we're watching the Premier League return to action right now with no fans, it's weird, but I'll tell you what, it's action.
Yeah, it's great to have it back.
Correct. And we'll be back on NBCSN tomorrow to talk about it. But the NBA is going to be the first to show up en masse. Huge league, huge attention on how this is going to be done. And the health and safety protocols have been published. And a man who's been all over this, the pandemic story, and certainly of the NBA, he is joining us from The Athletic as well. As the Stadium NBA insider, Shams Charania, here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Shams?
Rich, I appreciate you having me on. Hope you and your family are safe.
Thank you. Are you going to Orlando? Are you preparing to head down and be part of that Tier 1 bubble?
Man, I really don't know, to be honest. Like, I throughout this whole pandemic, I don't know about you, Rich, but I've tried to just live day to day because you just don't know what happens next week or the week after that. I feel like every week is a different week. There's something new that comes up every week. Like, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, like the coronavirus situation was in and of itself the most major moment of my lifetime. And so after that, you have the murder of George Floyd and the racial tension that's come out after that. Like, it's been one after the other. So, you know, we'll see. I don't know yet.
No, I know. And obviously, you know, I shouldn't ask that because, again, it might not be up to you. It might be up to, obviously, your employer, whether to send you or not. And times are, as you point out, unique to say the least, as the NBA has just put out this health and safety protocol list. What leapt out at you first up?
Yeah, it's a great question. There was a lot, you know. Some of the things were basically, to me, it's how far the NBA is going to make this a truly closed off, safe environment. Like, if you leave, you have severe penalties. You know, players, from what I'm told, do not want to go through the invasive nasal swab. Well, if you leave and you're caught, not only do you have to go through the 10 to 14-day quarantine, not only do you have to register 2 consecutive negative tests, but you also have to go through the invasive nasal swab testing, the enhanced testing, as they called it. You know, they have rings, potentially up to 2 rings that can, one, tell you if you're within 6 feet of another person, another ring that can tell you if you know, early detection of coronavirus. And there's a wristband that everyone on the campus is supposed to wear, and that will allow you to basically enter different security checkpoints, access your room, access coronavirus testing. But, you know, how much will the monitoring go? Will it be used as a tracking device, which the NBPA and the NBA has completely shut down? Like, there's just so many different protocols, Rich, that it's a lot. And then there's, you know, 35 members of a traveling party per team. There are 4 required positions. You have to have an athletic trainer, a couple other key positions. And then if a player chooses to have his own masseuse, his own security guard, his own trainer with the team, like they can make an exception for a player. So, obviously LeBron James has had his own people at different points. Chris Paul's had his own people at different points. Like all these star players have had their own people around them. So will one of those guys make the cut for the traveling party? That will be interesting to monitor. So it's a lot, Rich. It's definitely a lot that the NBA put into this. This was a process that took months. This was well rumored throughout the NBA, and we were just kind of waiting for this to drop, and they put it out Tuesday night.
So now what's the next step here? Does the Players Association have to negotiate some of these out or some of these in with the board of management, I guess, with the NBA, and then we're all good, and then this is really happening? I mean, despite Kyrie Irving Zooms and things of that nature, I mean, this is really happening? Next steps, if you don't mind.
This protocol, health and safety protocol, this 113-page packet has been fully approved by the NBA and the NBPA. So
okay,
the
so that's
NBA
done.
And the PA, barring any unforeseen setbacks, they are moving forward to a season. That is the plan for everyone involved. But again, the June 24th date that players have to notify their team by on whether they will play or not, because every player is given a choice. Obviously, if you don't play and you're not excused, you're not going to get paid, but there won't be any other penalty. You won't be suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. So that decision will rest on every individual player. So the show's going on. The boat is going to continue to sail. We'll see if I do think there will be some players. I don't know how many that is. It could be a couple. It could be 5. It could be a dozen that could decide not to play just based on what's going on in the country, coronavirus pandemic, family issues, a lot of different things that go into it. But the boat is going. If players want to get off the boat, they're free to. But as far as everything I've been told, this is the packet that has been fully agreed upon.
Senior NBA insider for the Athletic, Stadium NBA insider Shams Charania here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, then, so what happens when there's a game? There's no masks required around the bench area. And I guess we're just figuring that everything's going to be handled best they can at the hotel and hotel transportation to game level, that if that's all locked up, that when it's time to play a game, we're just going to lose ourselves in the competition, and health and safety, let the chips fall where they may. Is that basically the way it is?
Yeah, going back to your point about masks, the players on the first row of the bench are not going to be required to wear masks, but coaches will be heavily recommended to wear masks. So you might see some of your favorite coaches, again, it'll be optional, but some of your favorite coaches might be wearing masks during this. And the second row of the bench, everyone must wear a mask unless a player is active and just so happens to be sitting in that second row because there isn't enough space on the first row. So, there will be heavy protocols. Basically, everyone else will be wearing masks unless you're playing in the game or unless you're a referee. There will be a lot of disinfecting going on from not only Disney staffers, but the NBA is going to have their own people around the situation. And this to me is going to be the ultimate. You call it a bubble. The NBA wants to call it a campus. It is very severe. It's very drastic. We'll see how much of it we'll be lenient on. The NBA will. Like if someone really leaves the bubble, if LeBron James or James Harden leaves the bubble, I've had players ask me, like, what happens? Like, how can the league quarantine them for 10 or 14 days. So these are the types of things that are TBD. Like, we'll see how the league plays out these circumstances. What if players start, calling the anonymous tip hotline and start, saying that, hey, this guy violated this rule or this, like, you don't know where this could go until we actually go through with this. This is so unprecedented.
Now, Shams, are you insinuating that somebody's going to be calling the tip hotline before a Western Conference Finals Game 7 to say, I saw LeBron out of the bubble last night? Is that what you're saying, that somebody might actually do such a thing? Is this what you're saying?
I mean, Rich, the option is available for them at their disposal. So, these guys are competitors.
Yeah, I saw that. I tweeted out, when are they going to set up the James Dolan hotline? When can I call to report him? Yeah, where's that hotline? I don't know if you saw my retweet of your tweet, Shams. But I'm like,
I didn't see that.
Yes, I'd like to report the worst owner in the history of sports. By the way, it's not anonymous with me. I put my name to it. So I guess again, this is all part and parcel of what's workable and what's not. But there is again an agreement on the part of players and owners, commissioner and television partners, and that this is going to happen. Is there anything that you're hearing? Obviously, the virus is something that would, no question, change this whole dynamic. What are you hearing about? Because again, you've been covering the pandemic expertly as well for Stadium and the Athletic. What are you hearing about any new technology? You mentioned a bracelet that can tell about the onset potentially of COVID-19. I read about the Sacramento Kings owner talking about sort of a breathalyzer that you breathe into a tube, and within seconds, it can be a test that is reliable to see if you have COVID-19 or not. What are you hearing about on this front?
Yeah, the NBA is going to be doing a lot, and in terms of investigating different things. Like one thing that they're working to do is trying to have a software to where at every checkpoint, a player that wants to enter, whether it's the arena, whether it's the hotel, whether it's the facility where they work out, like all these different places that they're going to have at their disposal, whether it's the 24/7 lounge, where they're able to swipe their magic band, and if it's green, they're able to be let through. If it's yellow or red or any other color, then they'll be investigated for further health concerns. Now, that is in the works, and that is, that sounds so futuristic to me. Like you can just, all you have to do is swipe this magic band and it'll tell you if you're at risk for coronavirus. Like that's pretty insane. But that they're going to have special thermometers in each campus member's rooms. That it's called a smart thermometer that you can apply daily, and all the feedback will go back to the league health portal, which will basically be a tracking device from the moment the NBA starts its resumption in late June, coming up in the next week or so, to the end of whenever the finals end. So basically, it's like a constant monitoring portal for them. So they're trying to come up with a lot of ways to make sure that not only is everything going to be tracked, but we can stay ahead of the game as much as possible, more than the average, I guess, human.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So is it possible, again, and this is the interesting aspect to me, and I think for a lot of fans too, Shams, is that will the NBA be testing out testing in a way that could be writ large, that we could all use to maybe go back to work and open up societies? I'm serious
here. That's a great point. That's a great point. So they're not going to utilize this breathalyzer or this saliva test during this Orlando bubble, but the NBA is involved in a Yale health study that is going to allow their players to participate, and staffers and whoever wants to participate, in terms of trying to basically confirm Yale's testing and validate the testing and confirm that their saliva testing does work. And so the NBA will be funding that. We'll be working hand in hand with Yale on that. And listen, if it's a success, that's clearly going to be a test. I don't know how readily available it will be in the marketplace, but a confirmation of that test, where it's basically a saliva test away, could go a long way, whether it's a saliva, whether it's a swab, or whatever the case may be. So there's no question. They're trying to figure out ways. You get this band, you have a couple rings that'll tell you if you have early detection. They are trying to figure out ways that they can use just for their season to go on. Now we'll see if these are things that'll tack on for the everyday American.
So are you saying that, again, this is not something that the NBA is going to use officially to rule somebody in or out, but it is something that will be using the players potentially as part of a study to see if this material works for society as a whole? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. They will be participating in that study. They've participated in a couple studies, a Yale study, a Mayo Clinic study for antibodies that players have participated in. I'm told several teams have participated in that one. So there's no doubt they're trying. The testing that will occur in the bubble will be a less invasive nasal swab or an oral swab. Depending on which one it is, they might even do both and see what the results of both are, and hopefully both are confirming the same type of result, and they can just be 100% accurate. But again, the invasive nasal swab, unless you leave the bubble and you're caught, that'll be out of the picture, as will this saliva testing that they will be testing out.
Can this magic band figure out if James Harden's taking a third step? Can we figure that out? Is that possible?
I don't think that's part of the protocol.
Okay, that's not part of it. Okay, that's not part of the plan. But in all seriousness, I guess to wrap this up, what if a third of a team tests positive right before a decisive Game 7, right before a pivotal Game 5? I mean, there's no real plan for that, correct? It's just trying to avoid that everything is just in place to avoid all that, and then we'll see what happens should something like that happen, correct?
I think you're right that it is to avoid that. They will allow replacement players for coronavirus in the bubble. So if you're in Game 6 of the NBA Finals and your guy, you have 3 guys maybe test positive for coronavirus, and they're going to be out for 10 days, and the finals are over in 4 days, then listen, I think it's time to replace said players and bring in guys, that can play. And, what Adam Silver did speak to players about a month ago was if players do start testing positive with some level of frequency, the NBA doesn't want to halt play, but perhaps they can do a 1 or 2 day stoppage and then come back. But they're not coming back just to stop again like they did on March 11th. This is, once this boat gets rolling, Rich, there's no plan for them to get off.
Shams Chank, thanks so much for the time and the information. It's impeccable. I appreciate that. I feel smarter for chatting with you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Than's Rich. I appreciate you guys.
You got it. You got it. That's Shams Charania of Stadium as well as The Athletic. I mean, they're the technology is what gets me excited. That's what gets me excited.
Big time.
Because you imagine if this stuff does help and does work, and we could then begin to have a smarter way to figure out how to reopen society with this stuff. That you got to figure if the NBA is doing this, the NFL's doing this, right?
Oh, yeah.
The NFL's throwing tons of money at this. Try and figure out on game day, hey, blow into this thing. It's 90% accurate. Do you have it? Do you not? Let's go play. You don't have it. You don't have it. You don't have it. These refs don't have it. Let's go. You put the N95 mask material underneath the face mask and go. Although I don't know how players could play with that. I don't know what an expert would say about this. But
if everyone's tested and no one has it, they can't give it to each other. Theoretically, I guess, unless
there's a false positive. I mean,
there's a false exactly.
You could go crazy about this sort of thing.
I know.
I mean, it's optimistic when you read the articles from last night. You see all the protocols in place. You see what they're going to do with this bubble. And then you wake up and you see the report from the Orlando airport.
Yeah, that half of the workers they tested at the Orlando International Airport, 52% positive, according to Ron DeSantis.
260 out of 500. And you're like, wait a second. Maybe we shouldn't be jumping the gun on returning.
Well, again, but if everybody quarantines and then shows up and is clean. Coming in, and they don't, I guess part of the philosophy is if you don't, I have not been tested for COVID-19. I don't know if you guys have yet.
I have not.
But I have seen what the extreme nasal swab test looks like. That would make me not want to leave campus.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like, okay, I know I'm climbing the walls here, but what am I leaving campus for? I'm screwing my team, my teammates. They've all stayed here, but I'm better than the rest. I'm going to leave. I also don't want that thing basically touching my cranium.
If you have to do that every day, every other day, no thanks.
Right? So that might be
that's enough of a deterrent.
I don't know. And I guess chefs are being allowed on and masseuses are being allowed on. You could see
some of
they're going to provide video games, movie screenings, DJ sets, ping pong, pool, lawn games. Players can attend other games, I guess, to get out and about. Apparently card games, they're asking you to be socially distanced 6 feet apart when you're playing card games, and you're getting a new deck of cards. That's the favorite details. No doubles in ping pong. No doubles. Because, again, you're right next to each other. The singles, you're socially distant. Only singles.
Right, but you can double team trap a guy over half court.
I know, and it makes no sense that obviously, the blocker charge, you're clearly hitting one another. You're all over, hanging all over. But the more that you can make sure that nobody's next to each other. And the thing is, I guess, that you're playing doubles next to each other. And then, no, let's not do that. Stay apart. Just the two of you guys stay apart. But once it's all over, you're going to be within 6 feet of each other. I guess if you're putting on masks, they're just trying to be overly cautious. Every last thing that you can take care of. But at least they're trying it. Baseball. At least they're trying it. A lot of these guys are set for life, and they're going, right? Harden, Westbrook, they don't have to pick up a basketball ever again. They're going. It seems, as we're sitting here right now on, what is it, June 17th? They're leaving soon. Again, Shams reported that the first team to come is going to be July 1. The Raptors are showing up because they're coming in from Canada.
Right.
And then they're going to be sitting there.
2 weeks.
Hank Goldberg's about to call into the show, and we're done with Hank. They separated the teams by hotels. And I'll tell you this.
It's by seeding, right?
It's by seeding. And the reason why you would think might be the top seeds get the more posh hotels. But I think they separated them by seeding because if it stays chalk, and let's say the Blazers, Kings, Pelicans, Spurs, Suns, Wizards don't play their way in, that's one less hotel to have to worry about. And if it goes chalk in the first round of the playoffs and the top seeds advance, that's a second hotel that you have to worry about.
Makes sense,
if there's an upset, there might be some epidemiologists upset.
Right.
And I have done the research to take a look at the hotel ratings.
Oh.
I want to see if you know the difference here.
I know the three of them.
Mike Del Tufo is our Walt Disney World hotel expert.
I've stayed in 2 of them.
All right, stand by.
God bless you. Okay, now, have you seen the draw yet?
I haven't seen it.
Have you seen the draw yet?
I haven't seen it.
Because apparently it took place about an hour plus ago, and I'm sure somebody who knows the draw is joining us right here. Are you ready, Mike Del Tufo? Do you have it? Because this is the way we introduce this, man.
Oh, yeah, these are all
usually the
Belmont Stakes.
The last leg of the Triple Crown is the first leg this year, and the man who joins us every single year before Triple Crown races to tell us what's what and to make some money for Rich Eisen Show listeners and viewers, our buddy Hank Goldberg back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Hammer? You there, Hammer?
He's there. Hank, you got us?
You know, put him back on the. I mean, we did everything. We even had the. We called him the post. We got them all.
Great intro.
Thank you. I thought the intro was perfect.
It was
I
well
thought
done.
I stuck the landing. It's 10 out of 10.
Let me try him again.
You there? You there, Hank?
Yeah, he's in like.
Is he in this? He's in the portal. He's in the transfer portal.
He's in Las Vegas.
All right, let's call him back. Let's get him. Let's figure this thing out. Did he drop?
He just dropped him. I dropped him.
Oh, there it is. There's the field.
Look at that.
I have the names.
You could
in front of me.
Got them all.
They're pretty. Tap It to Win.
Tap It to Win.
Sol Volante.
I'm sure that's Sole Volante, but that's okay.
Max Player, Modernist, Farmington Road.
Farmington Road.
My sister went to UMaine.
That was a Springsteen song that never made an album.
Four left.
Four
what a
left.
great. Oh my gosh.
Jungle Runner. Is that a Springsteen?
No. Farmington Road.
Tis the Law, Dr. Post, and
Look at
Pneumatic.
that. 6-5. That's what we call a prohibitive favorite. Tis the Law. Dr. Post. Shouldn't Dr. Post be on the rail?
On one, yeah.
And then Pneumatic.
Pneumatic. 10 horses.
Pneumatic, everybody. There you go.
All right, we're calling Hank back.
Our friends at NBC are going to have it. I think Tirico's going. Isn't that what he sounded like when he called us on Friday? That he's going to be there?
No fan.
Premier League started.
Weird.
In
You've been there, right,
Norris
Rich?
venue.
You went to Belmont, right?
Yes.
Brock, when you saw
I
it,
went.
I went.
But
you never saw the race.
To lay our bets one
the
year.
Race
I've
is
never been to
amazing.
the race. No.
So Aston Villa, Sheffield United before the match today. All the players
They all
kneeled.
took a knee. Yeah.
Man.
Wait till football.
That's our football. Their
Our
football.
I mean our NFL.
There you have it.
Hank here. Ooh, Hank is here, hopefully.
How about that? Is Hank back on the phone line? You can do it again.
I have to. It's protocol.
Are you there, Hank? You there?
I am.
Hey! How you feeling, brother?
I heard you talking about ranking hotels.
Yes.
And as Philip Marlowe said, there is a combination of hotels between a flea bag and a dive.
And that is? Do we know?
That's how he describes a hotel in transition.
Okay, very good. How's everything in Vegas? We see videos it's like nothing ever happened there. Is that true?
Well,
what's going on there?
They're slowly coming back.
Okay.
But restaurants are open, and the hotels are gradually I'm going over to my favorite place today to register, so that I don't have to go over there and sit there. I can just play at home.
Okay.
Because I'm being very careful.
You should. You have to be.
I wear my mask to pick up the mail.
Okay.
So, you got in my situation, I have to be.
Damn straight, Hank.
But I'm working. I'm doing CBS Sports Line and I'm doing ESPN this week.
Fantastic.
And so I'm staying busy.
And I appreciate you doing this show as always. I give you the floor, Hank, about the Belmont Stakes. It's going to be obviously shorter than usual. No fans, but other than that, we got ourselves a Triple Crown leg. Usually it's the first this year. What do you have for me on this front?
Well, I talked to a couple of trainers who said that there'll be an asterisk next to this Triple Crown. It's not a normal one, like you said, but 'tis the law is the horse. This is a horse who won the Florida Derby. He won the big 2-year-old race last year, the Futurity, and he stands out. This is the Saratoga group who had Funny Side, and they're back together again. Barclay Tagg, the trainer. This is a quality horse, and he's several cuts above the rest of the field. Problem is, if you bet on him, you're probably going to get 3 to 5. You're not going to make a lot of money.
Right. So, how do we make a lot of money here, then, Hank? What do you got for me?
I don't know. I'm at a loss. There's a couple of horses that I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is Modernist. They weren't sure if they were going to run him in this race or if they were going to hold him off until one of the later derbies, maybe Indiana. But Belmont worked him out the other day. He had a terrific work, and so he's going to go, and he's a speed horse. And you never know with Mott how good this horse is going to be. He's going to probably go early or at least be close up early. And the question is, he benefits from the shorter distance. So we'll see how far he can go.
Right.
He's one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another horse called Pneumatic.
Yep.
Who is lightly raced. He hasn't had a lot of stakes races. But he ran third in the Matt Win, which was a big race at Churchill Downs, and Asmussen trains him. When you say Asmussen, you got to take a look. And so I don't know how good this horse is going to be.
Okay.
Those are the two horses that I'm looking at with some kind of a chance, and so I'll play them. Of course, I'm going to be in action.
That's why we call you, Hank. So what is the before we get to the money talk? What is the challenge that you're hearing from your people that you speak to about this reconfigured COVID-19 Triple Crown leg order now? I mean, where things are all out of whack. What are you hearing about this?
I talked to Dale Romans a lot. Dale said whatever they do in this Triple Crown, there's going to be an asterisk there. It's not a normal Triple Crown. And so it's whatever anybody says, it's not the same. You're running the Belmont, which normally is the last race, at not the normal distance. And it's a couple of months out from the Kentucky Derby, which is not until Labor Day. or Labor Day weekend. So, and here's another factor. The Travers is going to be a week before the Kentucky Derby. So you may not have all the quality horses running in the Kentucky Derby. It's all out of whack.
But in terms of getting the horse ready, there's what challenge you got on that front?
Well, here's the deal. You got Maxfield, for example, who is not going to run now. But, there are horses who are going to train up to the Haskell and use the Haskell as the prep for the Derby. And that's the race at Monmouth this summer. So, and then there's the Travers situation where trainers are going to have a choice. Do they want to run the Kentucky Derby or they want to run the Travers? There's the big race at Del Mar this summer, which will also be a prep. So they're going to have to choose the route that they're going to go to the Derby this year rather than take the normal, let's do the Santa Anita Derby on such a date. Let's do the Bluegrass on such a date. There are horses who are passing the Belmont to run in the Bluegrass in next month because they like that period of time better and prepping the Derby.
All right, Hank, let's get to the money talk now then. So obviously, it's what you got to do, right? I mean, what are you going to do? Certainly, when you're expecting the horse to sit on top to be making you, a mere bag of shells. What do you got for me on this front?
Well, I've got Pneumatic and I've got Modernist. Those are the two horses I like underneath. Maybe Dr. Post. So I'll take those horses and box them in exactas and the only hope to make money is that Tis the Law stumbles out of the gate, and you don't have a mile and a half to make up the ground.
Okay.
But other than if Tis the Law runs his race, it's over.
Okay, so you're just rolling the dice by exacta, boxing the 4 and the 10 and the 9, the 9 and the 4, and just see what you got. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, and something, Bill Mott would not be running if a lot of this is points towards the Derby, but it's also if you run second in the Belmont, it means something for breeding. But if something happens and you win this race, it's a big deal.
All right. Hey, before I let you go, Hank, earlier in the first hour, we're just talking about me being a Jet fan for so many years and decades, and just talking about the AFC Championship game where A.J. Dewey picked off Richard Todd and made me a miserable human being for a very, very long time. Did your friend, may he rest in peace, Don Shula, purposely leave that tarp off the field because he knew the Jets' running game with Freeman McNeil was coming in and just let it rain on the Orange Bowl? Did he do that on purpose?
Well, that's what the Jets fans think.
Yeah. So that did not happen? That did not happen?
I don't think so. Walt Michaels thinks it happened.
The Jet coach at the time. Oh, yeah. I know that.
I knew Walt very well. When I worked with Jimmy the Greek and we were getting ready for the NFL Today, every Friday night we had dinner with Walt Michaels at Dewey Wong's, a great Chinese restaurant in New York.
Yeah.
And Walt helped Jimmy with his predictions. He was a great guy, Walt. I liked him a lot.
So, wait, the Jets coach was helping Jimmy the Greek make predictions based on overs and unders and things of that nature, based on, minus and pluses? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, he was. They were old friends.
Amazing. Oh, my gosh. So what did happen on that day? Where did A.J. Dewey come from, Hank? What the hell?
Well, A.J. Dewey was a heck of a player. But, Coach Shula, remember A.J. Dewey was a guy who started out as a lineman who they moved into the linebacker spot, and the Jets couldn't handle it.
What was it like back in those days, Hank, as, because now, now there's a million pregame shows, but you were there from the ground up, right, for the NFL Today? And
yes.
Phyllis George, may she rest in peace, just passed away as well.
Yes.
What was it like doing a show like that then?
Well, it was an interesting show to do because, Brent Musburger had to be one of the best hosts of all time when you consider his cast. You know, he didn't really have a professional football analyst on the show. You know, Jimmy was a handicapper, and Phyllis was a great personality. Irv Cross was okay, but there wasn't any, you know, Phil Simms on that show. So, you know, and Brent carried the show.
Right.
And he had to do half a dozen shows a day. It was amazing. He was amazing.
Well, he still is, Hank, and so are you. And then, were you there when he and Jimmy threw down?
I was, and I got to tell you something.
Yes.
I really was. You know, if you talk to people today, they would have had to have had that skirmish at Yankee Stadium if everybody who says they were there were there.
Right.
I can name the people who were in the place at the time.
Walk me through it.
I was there. Mike Pearl was there.
Yep.
Who was the producer of the NFL Today. Todd Musburger, Brent's brother.
An agent.
Yep. Also, there was Kevin O'Malley, who worked for CBS at the time, and a reporter for the Washington Post, who Kevin begged him not to do the story, but he did. And that was about it. My sister was there, too. And it was, you know, a lot of us used to go to dinner at that restaurant after the games were over.
So what?
And I'll never forget.
Yes.
When Jimmy came into the place and he was outraged because that day Brent had stepped on his story because he had done the story about who the coach at Notre Dame was going to be, and it was Jerry Faust. And so when instead of giving a lead in, Brent said, "So what's this we hear about Jerry Faust being the coach at Notre Dame?" And Jimmy did one of those hama because, you know, he stepped all over his story.
Right.
So Jimmy had all day to steam, and he came into the restaurant, Pear Trees. He walked over to Brent. He said, "Brent, you killed me today." Brent said, "I can kill you anytime I want to on that show." And Jimmy leaned over and slapped him. And Todd Musburger, Brent got out of his chair, and Todd Musburger yelled at Jimmy as Jimmy backed up towards the bar like he was going to grab a bottle. I'll never forget Todd yelling, "Go ahead, Jimmy. Do it like you used to do it when you were a gangster."
Are you
serious? Unbelievable.
Hey, wow. Are you serious? That was the retort?
That was Todd's retort.
Yeah. Oh.
And Frank Ross, who we used to call Skylab because he once showed up at the Masters with a life sentence in his briefcase. Anyway, Skylab grabbed Jimmy, and he and I took Jimmy out and got him a taxi and got him out of there. And that's how it ended.
And so what was it like on the set the next time, Hank? What in the world was it like when they finally got back together?
Well, they shook hands.
Right.
And, I don't think Brent ever got over it, really. And, he was astounded. I mean, I stayed in the restaurant, and I'll never forget Brent said to me, "Do you believe he did that?" And I was no longer working for Jimmy. I was there for that weekend because the Dolphins were playing there.
Right.
And I had my own issues with Jimmy, and I won't tell you what I said to him. But anyway, Brent was absolutely in shock that Jimmy would come after him that way.
So what was a bigger disaster, their relationship or Jerry Faust at Notre Dame?
Great
question. You'll have to ask Jimmy Johnson, who did a worse job on Jerry Faust.
Wow.
Faust.
Hank, you take care of yourself, man. I love your stories. Your stories are the all-time greats. And
I'll tell you, I really was there.
No, clearly.
and please give my best to Susie.
Always. She always loves when you're on the show, knows that you're on. And if we don't talk, your birthday's July 4th, correct? Coming up?
Big number 80.
The big 80. Hank, you are the
God
best.
Bless you,
God
Hank.
bless you is exactly right.
I'll tell you what Shula said, that the last birthday bash I was at for him at Gulfstream Park at lunch when he turned 88. I asked him what he'd like for his birthday. He said, "I want to be 89."
Well, you know what? You're a legend yourself, Hank. Love you, truly do. And I love when you're on.
The best, Rich.
Right back at you. Always love you. And, hopefully we'll, chat very soon and get you on before another big race.
I guess the next Triple Crown race will be the Derby.
That's right. We'll get you on before that, as always.
Labor Day. Labor Day weekend.
In the meantime, have a great birthday, Hank. You take care of yourself.
Thank you so much, Rich. Great to talk with you.
Same with you. Hank Goldberg.
Yeah, Hank. That was awesome.
Story time with Hank Goldberg is some of my favorite, because, we could go Sinatra with him. You could go South Florida with him. I'm sure he's got dozens of Larry King stories from South Florida. Larry did the games.
Yeah.
In South Florida.
Wow.
And, yeah, I was there. You think
the caller makes a good point.
Thank you, Larry. I was there.
Larry.
What do you say, that you'd think the fight took place in Yankee Stadium based on the people that said they were there?
How many events happened there? Everybody was there. He's so on.
Well, if you're going to tell Jimmy the Greek I can get you any time I want on that show, aren't those slapping words?
Yeah. I think so.
Jimmy was not going to.
Brent Musburger.
The things these guys have seen and done.
The GOAT. Brent Musburger.
Do we have room for Brent tomorrow?
The GOAT. I don't know if Brent wants to talk about this, to be very, very honest with you.
It's not like Jimmy the Greek is still with us.
The GOAT. Brent Musburger. There are no pregame shows in football without him.
Nope.
And Brian Gumbel was doing one for NBC at the same time. But this is the first where it's 4 people.
Yep.
And let's do it. And let's talk before a football game like it's a holiday.
Halftime.
And then the games that he's called, the NBA on CBS that he would do. The game that we talked about the other day about the worst, sporting event that one that left you gutted because of the 1994 Michigan-Colorado Cordell Stewart game that got re-aired. And I mentioned that 1995 Yankee lost to the Seattle Mariners when it was Buck Showalter's last game as Yankee manager. Turned out to be Mattingly's last game as a Yankee, period, as a baseball player, period. Brent Musburger called that game. The GOAT.
Musburger.
Now then, you are the GOAT, Mike. Thank you very much. Good job.
Agreed.
You are the GOAT, Mike, when it comes to Disney World. How many times have you been to Walt Disney World?
No, I've only been there like 3 or 4. But in the last 3 years, 3 times in the last.
Okay, so you're a once-a-year guy now.
Recently.
Oh, it's all recent. Okay,
so, yeah.
Which is perfect. It's perfect. I haven't been to Walt Disney World since my parents took me down there, I think, as an 8-9-year-old kid. We stayed at the Polynesian Hotel. And it rained, and it was 40 degrees. It was freezing. It was terrible. I insisted. There's a photograph that my mother still has that my dad, rest in peace, went out and put me in a parka. My wife's seen this photograph. It's a parka that I was in. It was a Camp Loconda parka that they put me in because I insisted I had to go down the slide in the pool. I've never seen a slide that big. I had to go down it. It was like 40 degrees. My parents were like, "You're going to wear this parka." They zipped me up in a parka, and I went down in the pool. That's one of my memories of Walt Disney World. That's it. Pre-Epcot. That's it.
I went pre.
I do remember the Contemporary Hotel.
Yes.
Was truly as contemporary like the Jetsons, you know, where the monorail would go into the hotel, and I thought, my God, this is like, where's George's briefcase that folds up into the car folds into his briefcase
on there.
Honestly, I thought it was Spacely Sprockets were running the monorail.
Nice, well done.
I'm serious.
Yep.
So that's how long. That's how long it's been for me. You're more recent.
Yes.
So. The NBA, in creating their campus, as they're calling it, right? They don't want to call it their bubble community, their campus, have 3 hotels at their disposal for the return of the NBA season. It helps, again, to have a partner that can call up
boom,
the head of Walt Disney World and say, don't book these hotels, even though,
well, the
people are beginning to
closed.
think about coming back.
The timeshares are closed.
Oh, is
So
that
a
right?
lot of these are
look, all I'm saying is that it
You're
helps
not
to have a
allowed to go.
partner
Yes.
where, like, Bob Iger could call somebody up and say, hey, the NBA's
make a
coming, all
phone
right? Get
call.
ready for him and hang up.
Yeah.
There are many cast members that are hopping to it right now, essentially, in Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, get ready for the NBA.
Like Olaf is getting excited.
Well, I mean, because again, apparently they're
summer.
It's oh gosh,
It's summer.
Thank you, Mike.
Sorry.
Let me do the setups here, all right?
I'm sorry, Rich.
My gosh. So there are 3 hotels that are being utilized, and they're being separated. The top seeds are in one, the lower seeds are in another, and then the teams on the, if you will, outside looking in, the teams that are playing in potentially into that 8th and final playoff spot are in a third. And here are those teams that are playing in. There are 6 teams, 1 in the East, 4 in the West, that are all going to the Yacht Club.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Disney's Yacht Club Resort, for those scoring at home, is the official title. Now then, that's the Yacht Club. The other 2 hotels. Next up is the Grand Floridian Hotel, where seeds 4 through 8 in each conference, 8 teams are in the Grand Floridian Hotel.
Great ice cream place.
Is that right?
Oh, fantastic.
Okay.
So does the Yacht Club.
All right.
Okay.
And then the final one, the top seeds 1 through 4 are in the Grand Destino Tower at Coronado Springs. That is a heck of a business card right there.
That is the newest one.
Okay.
Look at that bad boy.
Okay.
Looks like Atlantis.
Now then,
Promise.
I looked it up because you're thinking maybe the top seeds are in the most posh one.
Nope.
I looked it up.
they are.
I looked it up. The Google ratings for all 3 hotels are the same.
Yeah.
Go figure.
yeah.
I don't know. Why do you say yeah? I mean, there's 9,000 votes that people have put on these things.
Because they're all pretty nice.
Not on Expedia.
Whoa.
Expedia is much more discerning.
Oh, let me see.
On Google, all 3 hotels have 4.7 stars out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah, their places are nice.
Expedia's got a rating of 5 stars.
For one of them?
No.
Oh.
As well. But none of them hit 4.7. And one has hit 4.1.
Ooh.
Let me think of which one would be.
Mike Del Tufo.
Ooh.
Which would you guess? Now, again, the reason why is I'll let you think this out.
Yeah.
And I want you to talk your answer out, Mike, like you're on a game show here.
Gotcha.
Like you're a
But
millionaire.
again,
Can I phone
the
a friend?
reason why they have done this, in my again, I'm not an expert, but the reason why they have separated these teams by seeding, I don't believe is, hey, you had the best record, so you have the best hotel.
No.
That you are all in these spots. Maybe they did do the 1 through 4 seeds, and that they're going to put them in the newest one.
They
that
did. Yeah. Destino's
but they are putting these teams in this way. Is that, again, if nobody's playing their way in, which is entirely possible, those guys are gone. So the Yacht Club is out of the campus. They don't have to worry about that anymore. And that if the first rounds go chalk, where the top seeds advance, then the Grand Floridian, you could take them out of the mix. And now suddenly the NBA campus, which I don't think the NBA they usually do root for upsets. So there are Cinderella stories. This year, I think on behalf of epidemiology, I think they would love to have no play-in games. And then on top of it, let's get all the lower seeds out. So all you got to focus on is the Grand Destino Tower at Coronado Springs. Everybody's there, and that's your bubble community. Now then, Mike.
Yeah.
Which one would you want to stay at of all 3 of those hotels?
The Floridian's the oldest.
Okay.
My sister, my brother have been there a million times.
Okay.
I stayed there once
Okay.
out of it.
All right.
I was also at the Beach Club, which is right next to the Yacht Club. They're close to each other.
Okay.
I have to think the 4-1 goes to the Grand. It has to go to the Floridian. But I might be wrong because The yacht club could be. Oh, it's a tough one between the two of them.
Which is your guess?
Floridian.
The Floridian is not the 4-1 rating according to Expedia.com.
See, I like the Floridian, but it's the oldest one.
Incorrect.
Whoa. The yacht club.
The 4.1 out of 5-star rating on Expedia.com.
The Destino. I'm going to be wrong.
I'm telling you, I want to make sure I get this one correct.
I'm going to be wrong on both.
Destino.
Because it's new.
The 4.1 on Expedia.com goes to the spot where the top seeds are sitting.
Yeah, it's because it's the newest. There's not enough votes.
What?
That's got to be it.
So you're saying like a couple of people had a bad experience and they brought
because
the whole rating down?
I'm just telling you,
the thing falls
I
down.
looked it all
that happened
up
to me at the
on
Bellagio.
Expedia. The other two hotels are 4.5 out of 5 stars with wonderful ratings. This rating is 4.1 out of 5. Very good.
Yeah, you see,
that's it.
Maybe the elevators.
And I'm
like
telling you, I am looking at the room.
No,
I am looking at the rooms. I'm looking at the rooms. I'm looking at the beds. And I will tell you this. They better put another mattress on the bottom of these beds because I don't think these are made for like Robin Lopez.
No.
Okay.
Bigger beds, right?
These beds are not made for Robin Lopez. What these beds are made are for the 8-year-olds who are ready to go on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
I think that's closed.
That's what it looks like to me. Is it really?
Yeah.
What do you mean it's closed?
I think it's done. Mr. Toad's been gone for, I think, a little
Dude,
while.
Excuse me.
I've
been to Disneyland more recently.
They've done.
It's there in Disneyland.
I know. Disney World's changed up.
What are you talking about? Mr. Toad doesn't have a wild ride anymore?
No, I think all those are gone.
Are you telling me?
I've not been on those the last 3. No, I don't. If they exist,
do you go on every ride? I mean, Walt Disney World is.
I go on 80% of them.
Walt Disney World,
except for the roller coasters and stuff.
Walt Disney World is huge. I mean, the footprint.
Disney World. Now, I've been to Star Wars.
They told me they have their own fire department. I heard they have their own.
You can take a tour. Underneath, they have a tunnel system that's where Disney World has a tunnel underneath it so that the characters can go in and out from places. That's how they appear out of nowhere. Oh, yeah. It's crazy. Like, that's how all of a sudden there'll be one, spoiler alert,
so
there's
Chip
more
and
than one
there's
Mickey walking at a time at Disney World. That was one of those things when you were a kid, when you saw Mickey, you're like, oh, my God, it's a Mickey. There's like 17 Mickeys.
Okay, so
there.
according to, there's a website, Walt Disney World Fun Facts.
Mm-hmm.
It's 40 square miles.
It's huge.
Yeah. Walt Disney World Resort, roughly the size of San Francisco or 2 Manhattans. 25,000 acres.
It's huge.
It's
and Mike, you're right. Cast of thousands, 70,000 cast members.
Yeah. So think about it.
Well, again,
Chip and Dale are in one spot.
Dude, hold on a minute.
Olaf's
just
over
so understand this. I am
That's all workers.
I am a former cast member. Okay.
You worked at Walt Disney World?
No. Anybody who works for Disney is called a cast member. You're not a cat. If you're being called a cast,
this is just in Central Florida.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you, is that doesn't mean it can't. Look, these guys.
I know what you mean. It's not. There's not 70,000 people dressed up as Goofy.
That's what he thinks. That's what he's thinking.
What costume did Rich wear?
Bob Iger is a cast member.
Right.
Okay.
The guy who takes the tickets. The guy who works at the
cast
concession.
member, and one of the potentially maybe 3 Chips or 5 Dales or
17 Mickeys or 12.
Correct.
Mickeys.
By the way, they better have one of those magic bands on Mickey to see where he is, because they can't have 2 Mickeys in the same place at once.
Bringing the bands in, Disney uses bands for everything. I still have one of them at my house.
What do you mean they use it for everything?
The bands, how you get Fast Pass everything into the rides. Everything, all the doors, everything opens with a band. So I have to think they're using.
And now they're putting something on it to see what your temperature is.
Because that's how the doors, everything there works with the band. You have to have the band.
What if you've just worked out and your body temperature goes up and you can't get into your room and you're standing out there in the hallway and you're like seriously, you're James Harden and then somebody strolls down. I mean, again, their hallways can't be. These hotels are going to be totally locked down.
Oh yeah.
So it's not going to be like some family of 4 strolling down the hallway and there's Donovan Mitchell, putting his dinner cart out of his room. So, and again, that's why I'm sure that they put these teams together by saying if there are no upsets, if the 12 seed doesn't play their way into the 8, or the 9 seed in the case of the East, and nobody in seeds 5 through 8 win their first round game, then your very good 4.1 out of 5-star Expedia Grand Destino Tower at Coronado Springs is the only part that they have to worry about anymore. And then I just wonder, are they separating them by like floors? Floors, so then suddenly you could just, if the top 2 seeds move on, if it's chalk all the way through to the conference finals, do they then only have to worry about a couple floors? And then the last thing too is, before we take our final break here, Mike, this is the most important question. Which of these hotels has the best pizza for the top player in the game to spit on so nobody else eats it?
I
Which is that the best pizza?
Floridian probably has the best.
Best pizza and ice cream?
Floridian, no. The Yacht Club and the Beach Club have the best.
But you've never stayed at the top seated hotel.
No. It's a 4-1. Why would I stay there?
Ladies and gentlemen.
No. It's brand new.
I'm still locked into this Disney fun fact site.
Oh, it's crazy. The tunnel system I actually saw.
Sounds like its own ride.
People lose 210 pairs of sunglasses per day.
There you go.
Wow.
Thomas Morstead of the New Orleans Saints and Pat Forde of Yahoo Sports. And you, 844-204-RICH, our final hour here on this Wednesday.
Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. Good to see you, gentlemen, right here.
Very much. Very much good to see you, too, Rich.
Yeah, right back at you.
Yeah.
Great to see everyone. Not just you, Rich.
I have a friend who, when he sees someone coming towards him, like in a room that he's supposed to know, he can tell I'm supposed to know this person, but I don't. He goes, there he is. There he is.
How are you as a ref, though?
I'm strictly what's called an AR, assistant referee. So I'm the guy who runs on the sideline with the flag.
I thought AR meant whole ref.
Well, that's what.
The shorts are pretty short, too. I mean, they're stocked in length right there.
Look at that ample thigh.
That's a ham hock right there.
Look at that. That's ready for market.
So
you might want to smoke that for a couple days.
You guys want to slice?
Put some hickory around it. You know what I would genuinely love for you as a second career, if you ever decided you wanted a second career? Finally be a broadcaster. Be someone who's calling color. Right?
Rich, maybe you could give me a break.
I mean, that would boost ratings for whatever sport you were talking about.
What if I took over the Rich Eisen show? Yes. Ron Burgundy did help announce the National Curling Finals in Ottawa, Canada. And they had all these ads for Tim Hortons Coffee, which is a big coffee chain for our Canadian listeners. And I just kept saying, all the signage, I'm like, who the hell is Tim Horton? Who does he think he is?
Is there any possibility that we see a Step Brothers sequel?
We haven't never talked about this face-to-face in public.
No, we haven't.
So let's break some ground here. Are we going to do Step Brothers too?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Put up the Photoshop anyway.
Oh, you make sense in that world somehow, Rich.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Do you have the damn music?
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
My dear follically challenged friend, Rich Eisen.
Earlier on the show, MMQB senior writer Albert Breer, The Athletic NBA insider Charania, Hammer and Hank Goldberg coming up, New Orleans Saints punter Thomas Morstead, plus Sports Illustrated senior writer Pat Forde. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Okay, the final hour of this Wednesday, allyoutube.com/Rich Eisen show is on the air. Allow my show to be a show. Chris Brockman, Mike Del Tufo, and there is TJ Jefferson, fresh off of his final putt of the day. Social media Grandmaster right here on the Rich Eisen Show.
1 out of 3.
1 out of 3 ain't bad. Hey, 1 out of 3 gets into the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown.
Exactly.
There you go. Hey, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
So Premier League of Soccer football is back, and apparently it's back to the point where there was a VAR gaffe in Sheffield United.
Yeah.
So did a Sheffield United did an Aston Villa keeper run the ball past his own goal line? Is that what happened? And then they didn't call it for Sheffield United? Is that basically? I'm trying to piece it all together during that commercial break. But all I'm saying is that this is what we want in sports. This is what we want in sports. We want to lose. We want to lose ourselves into, did they just blow it? Did the refs just blow it? Like, that's what we want, right? With everything else going on in the world, we want to lose ourselves. Even if refs blow it, obviously we want to get it right. And also, kudos to those participating. Look at this shot. We're putting it up right here thanks to our friends at NBC Sports Soccer. I'll express it to our fans listening on Dan Patrick Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 211. An empty stadium. Empty. And then all the players on the pitch taking a knee before the Aston Villa Sheffield United match. Both teams. And it looks like the official, the ref, is doing it too. Before he totally blew the call.
The VAR situation looked like the goalie caught the ball off of a corner kick in the goal.
In the goal.
Yeah.
And then the VAR said no, still no goal?
Yeah, still said no goal. Yeah.
Premier League's back, everybody. Premier League's back. And good chat so far with Albert Breer, Shams Charania, and Hank Goldberg giving us his picks for the Belmont Stakes and also taking us down memory lane of the time that he was there when Jimmy the Greek slapped Brent Musburger across the face. Priceless is all I can say. Pat Forde of Yahoo Sports is going to join us. But, you know, folks, those who know me from my work at NFL Network or here on the Rich Eisen Show, you all know how I feel about punters. Heck, I've made T-shirts multiple years. T-shirts.
You strolled in this morning wearing one.
Punters are people, too. Correct?
Correct.
We've got one here on our set. We've got one that's available for you to go get. Rich Eisen, RichEisenApparel.com. That still works. Also, RichEisenShowApparel.com. I talk about punters are not just people, too. They're weapons. They're weapons. They change field position. They win games. We've seen it, okay? Over and over again, I will pound the table. Well, punters are now worthy of being a subject of a children's book, too. Doesn't fit on a T-shirt. Doesn't really roll off the tongue, but it's true. The Middle School Rule of Thomas Morstead, The Middle School Rules of Thomas Morstead by Sean Jensen is available now wherever books are sold. And the punter of the New Orleans Saints, Thomas Morstead, joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show right now. How are you, Thomas?
I'm doing great, Rich. That's a hell of an intro. Appreciate it.
But it's true. I was spitting truth, correct?
Yeah, I don't think we need to pump up the group too much. You know, we can get a little arrogant quickly.
Come on, an arrogant punter? Is that a fact? Do those exist?
I'm just messing. There's very few of those.
Correct. When did you first realize, Thomas, that you could punt? When does that happen?
I mean, I've always punted. I did punt, pass, and kick as a young kid, and I played some peewee football a little bit, and I was interested in specializing whenever they didn't even let us kick extra points in the game. So it's always been something I've been interested in. I played soccer my whole life, and just kind of like some people love going to the golfing range and hitting golf balls. I love getting out on the grass field and punting spirals.
Damn straight you do. Or what does McAfee call them? Piss missiles, right? This is what McAfee calls them?
McAfee's got all sorts of good nicknames for different punts.
Well, some of them are not suitable for air. Let's be honest.
That's fair enough.
You could even say piss missile is a little bit on the edge right there. But I don't know, man. I just love the fact that what you guys do constantly gets discounted, but I'm always there for you. I've always been pounding the table. And in terms of the pass and the kick, were you always better at the punt, Thomas?
I would say I was always better at the punt and the kick, but punt, pass, and kick is all about throwing it right down the straight line. So I was pretty good at being precise in all three, and that's what helped me because I never could kick it farther or higher. Or throw it further and higher than some of the people that I was competing against. It was all about being accurate.
Okay. So tell me about this book. What are the middle school rules of Thomas Morstead? Thomas?
Well, basically it's going from me being born through high school and a lot of the things that I went through and the lessons that I learned. It's meant to be a relatively easy read. The target is kind of elementary, middle school, junior high age kids. And, I just think it's important for kids to, realize that even professional athletes or people maybe that they look up to have had struggles and have not felt good about themselves or have been bullied or different things like that. And so I think it's important that they know they're not alone, and hopefully that'll give them a little confidence and conviction to make it through whatever the different situations that they're going through right now.
So this is based on your story. This is your story.
It is my story. Yeah, it is my story. Like I said, it's just all the way through high school, and it was really an enjoyable experience with Sean Jensen, the author, of going through and kind of going through all the different stories of how I came to be who I am and all the different people that supported me along the way. It's been really an enjoyable experience doing that.
So, Thomas Morstead, Saints punter here on the Rich Eisen Show. What about the bullying? Let's go into that because that's so important, certainly when you're talking to kids. I mean,
yeah.
When you're talking to kids, I mean, I've got an 11, I've got a 9, I've got a 6. When one of them feels like they are left out by the group at school, whether they legitimately have been left out for whatever reason, or they feel it and really haven't been. My wife and I, we have to step in. We always feel like we have to step in and say something. And, I'm not saying they're being bullied, but that may happen down the road. So what about this? Because this is so crucial for a child's self-worth and for a child's confidence level moving forward, Thomas.
Yeah, look, I think it's all about having support and encouragement. It's no different than when a kid falls down. It's being there to help lift them back up and encourage them on their way and get them back on their feet. It's the same thing with that. I don't think bullying is necessarily always bad to experience. I think it's good to experience because it gives you a little bit of empathy. It's one thing to be told about something, but it's another thing to feel it and to feel a little pain and to hurt, and it helps you. It helps shape you. And so I think going through some of those things of being left out or feeling lonely or feeling ganged up on, it's never enjoyable, but I think if you have good friends and siblings and parents and uncles and aunts to kind of help you through those situations, it helps build a bit of empathy, which I think everybody in this world could certainly use a little more of right now.
And then feeling, yes, and we'll get to that a little bit more in a second, an experience of you during a high school football championship. You missed an extra point to tie a game and experienced, I guess, that. Is that that's part of this book as well?
Yeah, I would say that was a big turning point in my life. We were in the second round of Texas 5A high school state playoffs. We were playing in the Astrodome, and we were playing against a team called Port Arthur Memorial with a running back that I'd never heard of named Jamal Charles. He ended up being pretty good.
Yes,
and
indeed.
He ran for 4 touchdowns against us in that game. And anyways, I had a chance to tie it at the end of with 2 minutes left in the game. And missed the extra point, hit the left upright. We were playing on NFL posts because we were in the Astrodome instead of high school. So if it would have been a high school game, that would have been good. And I just remember after the game not wanting to let that be an excuse, and I just took it on the chin and kind of took accountability for it. My whole town was there in attendance, and it was really a difficult experience. But I think just taking accountability for it in the moment really helped me on my path. I didn't know it at the time. I mean, I didn't even think I was going to play in college at the time. And that's kind of one of the things I've always lent on moving forward. I've always, tried to put the accountability on myself, even if it's not my accountability. I've always tried to do that because, excuses are for losers to me. And so you got to find a way to always put it on your own shoulders.
The Middle School Rules of Thomas Morstead is a book for kids, and it's available wherever they're sold by Sean Jensen and Thomas Morstead. A couple more minutes with the Saints punter here on the Rich Eisen Show. We talking about accountability, talking about what's going on in the world and empathy. Boy, did this really settle into your locker room recently. Thomas, what can you tell us about the Saints locker room as it currently stands after Drew Brees, what he had to say publicly about never agreeing with anybody who would not stand for the national anthem, and then saying what he said in terms of an apology publicly, and then Zooming with you and his teammates on the subject, and then instructing the President of the United States not to use what he had said before as anything to divide. Certainly after he has spoken to his teammates. I kind of set it all up, and I'm wondering what you could tell me is the current state of affairs with your locker room.
Well, look, I think it's pretty evident over the past number of years that us to have the type of seasons we've had, to have lost the way we've lost in the playoffs the past 3 years, and they always bounce back. We've got a tremendous amount of leadership in the locker room, and leadership consists of sometimes dealing in conflict with teammates. And in my time, there's been no leader greater than Drew Brees, but that doesn't mean only having a captain's patch means that you're the only leader on the team. We've got so many leaders on the team. And I think this is going to be a blessing in disguise, not only for Drew, not only for our team, but for our nation. I think Drew's a man of conviction, and he just had a change of perspective after everybody on the team, we got together, and a lot of guys let him know how exactly they felt, and maybe that hadn't been said as clearly before to him. And all I know is Drew's not going to apologize unless he absolutely means it. He is not going to do something because of pressure or because of his brand. He's going to do the right thing. That's all I've ever seen him do. And I just know that he's going to handle this the right way. And I'm really excited to see what type of moves our team makes collectively, not only in New Orleans, but across the country with all the different sports leagues. Because I know somebody like Drew, with the power that he has to move the needle, if he gets passionate about something, the proof will be in the pudding, and he's already told us that his actions will speak a lot louder than his words, and so I'm excited to see what happens. So,
I know what happens in the locker room stays there, but how would you categorize that video conference meeting when Drew was hearing from his teammates? How would you describe it?
I would say it was extraordinarily vulnerable. It was difficult. It was emotional, and it was necessary. And like I said, I think everybody knows where everybody stands now. It's as clear a communication as was possible, and that's a really, really positive thing. And like I said before, I'm just really excited to see what actions take place following what happened. And I know Drew. I feel like I know him really well. I've been his teammate for 11 years. And I've seen the way he's dealt with adversity, and I've seen the way when he gets his muscle behind something, he's motivated, he's gonna make a move. And so, hopefully, collectively as a team, we can all help move the needle. I know for myself personally, my eyes have been opened more than ever before in the past few weeks, and I'm a little ashamed I haven't done more or been more involved. And so I'm looking forward to being part of that as well.
Thomas Morstead of the New Orleans Saints, again, is the new book about his life, The Middle School Rules of Thomas Morstead, available where all books are sold. What's the most upset you ever made Sean Payton? What's the most pissed he's ever been, Thomas?
Oh, man. I've gotten that glare before.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't scream as much at me when I screw up now. I think maybe it's just because I'm older with 4 kids and a wife, and he's just got a little more respect for me. But
you're a man, right?
Definitely a few moments as a rookie where I got my butt chewed out pretty good. You know, I try to avoid that. I try to, there's a lot of punters that get a lot of notoriety for big, long punts.
Right.
And I live in a different world. I've just tried to be the epitome of stability at the position for the Saints. I try to hit it about 48 to 50 yards every time with hang time, and I hope it's the most boring play. There's a fair catch, and we're off the field. And so I think Sean has appreciated that over the years, and I'm going to try to do that as long as I possibly can.
Well, I'm looking up your stats here on Pro Football Reference. I don't see any pass attempts. Have you tried? Have you thrown one yet, Thomas?
Yeah, we had one fake called against the Cowboys in 2014.
Okay.
We didn't have a checkout, unfortunately, and they were in stack safe, and their linebackers were smiling at me, just looking at me before the play ran.
That is not
14.
a good feeling. That is.
We were down 14 points with 7 minutes left in the game. It wasn't exactly the best time to catch them off guard. So, anyways, I did make one guy miss, so I felt good about that.
Okay.
Got tackled, decided not to throw it into coverage, and Sean came over to me on the sidelines and did apologize to me in person for the play call, and that was enough for me. I respected that. So, but I'm still, we did ambush in the first Super Bowl. I keep telling people we're saving ambush 2.0 for me, a passing attempt in the second Super Bowl that I'm in. So we'll have to wait for then.
Love it. And would you care to guess how many tackles you have in your career, Thomas Morstead?
I'm going to guess I'm credited with 11 or 12.
By the way, give me one or the other. Give me one or the other, because one of them's correct. Which one do you got?
All right, I'm going to go against my ego and say 11.
Correct. Thomas Morstead. Correct.
Hey, that just goes to show you, having an ego, having no ego pays off right there. That's
a punter. That's a punter. You just showed off, man. Yeah, 11. 1 year in 2012, you had 3 in a season. Wow.
Well, we gave up a lot of kickoff returns that year. That wasn't a good kickoff return year. But hopefully, if you go through my punting stats,
yes,
we have very few punts in the past 7 or 8, punt tackles in the past 7 or 8 years. So I've tried to, like I said, have a lot of boring plays.
I love it, Thomas. Thanks for calling in. Really appreciate the time. Enjoyed the chat. Let's do it again soon.
Rich, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Always, man. Punters are guests too, Thomas.
That's it.
That's it. Thanks for the call. That's Thomas Morstead. Fantastic. 11 tackles in his career.
Impressive number.
The Middle School Rules of Thomas Morstead, available wherever books are sold. Let's take a break, and we'll be back. Our friend Pat Forde will be joining us from Yahoo Sports when we return right here on The Rich Eisen Show.
Today on The Sports Judge.
We want to be Dodger fans.
Why do you want to be Dodger fans?
Real fans, real cases. And Rich Eisen settles all scores as the sports judge.
These are the plaintiffs, Amari and Kenya Tallarico. They say their father is forcing them to be fans of the New York Yankees. They'd rather cheer for their hometown Dodgers. They're accusing their papa of being a poopy hit. This is the defendant, Ken Tallarico. He says it's his right as a parent to decide which teams his children root for. He's accused of being a janky Yankees fan.
All rise. Here comes the judge.
Litigants are sworn in, sir.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, girls, is it true that your father is trying to force you to be Yankee fans?
Yes.
Mr. Tallarico, why are you forcing your daughters to root for the Yankees?
Your Honor, force is a strong word, okay? I'm more like not giving them other options right now. As you can see, I'm a Yankee fan.
I can.
My father's a Yankee fan. My grandfather, rest his soul, was a Yankee fan. We're a Yankee family. It's worked out pretty well. 27 championships, great memories, Bucky Dent. And I feel I wouldn't be a good father if I didn't want to share this success with my little girls.
Girls, why do you want to be Dodger fans?
We were born in Los Angeles and we want to root for our home team.
Do you have proof that you were born here in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Where'd you get those? Here you go, sir.
Thank you, Michael. This checks out to me.
We have these too.
What else you got? What is that?
These are great. These are cute. Oh, wow. Yeah, I know. You girls truly are Dodger fans.
I know, I hate to break up this love fest, Your Honor. I'm a big fan of your other show, The Rich Eisen Show. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
I happen to notice that Susie, your wife, is from Boston, and your kids are Celtics fans, but they live in L.A., so it'd be a bit hypocritical if you decided for my girls here.
Mr. Tallarico, while I do appreciate you trying to kiss up to the court by mentioning The Rich Eisen Show, I am personally outraged that you bring in my family life to the sports judge chambers. If my kids wanted to root for a team so badly as your children want to root for the Dodgers, I would let them. Rather than pointing out my hypocrisy, I'd rather point out the fact that I'm a better father, that I actually let my children choose the teams that they root for, that they follow their passions. Girls, you win. Go Blue.
Yes.
Wait a minute, what? Hey, ouch. Ungrateful little rugrats. I bet your Nana got those for you, didn't they? Nana, yeah. Who's gonna pay for your college tuition someday, honey? Not, oh, great, wow.
All right, let's start with the defendant. Come on in here, sir. Come on in here, sir. Are you happy with the verdict?
Am I happy? No, I'm not happy about it.
Whoa, with the language. You tried. They want to root for a good team, not the evil empire. I don't know how you
I'm out of here.
All right, keep living in the past, sir. Congratulations. And come on in, girls. You're the big winners today. Congratulations. What's your reaction to the verdict?
We love it.
Why do you love it so much?
Because the Dodgers are going to win the World Series.
Yay! You've heard it here first, folks. Yay for my 12-1 futures bet.
Will this NFC East rivalry ruin their marriage? Next time on The Sports Judge.
Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Appreciate you sticking with us here throughout this Wednesday. Pleased to have back here on the show. It's been quite some time. He's one of the best at certainly covering the collegiate sports landscape with college football on the horizon and the Oklahoma State OAN kerfuffle. Is that what we're calling it? Is that basically what it is?
Fair.
Pat Forde of Yahoo Sports back here on the show. How are you, Pat?
Hey, I'm doing well. Kerfuffle seems like a good place to start, Rich.
I guess so. What are the state of affairs right now at Oklahoma State football, best you can tell, Pat?
Unsettled. They're trying to put on the, best face of, we've got everything under control and we're proceeding, and the eruption from Monday is now in the rearview mirror, and maybe that will turn out to be the case, but I'm not sure this is going to be just an easy one to gloss over with a quite wooden apology video from Mike Gundy reading from a script. The fact of the matter is, Chuba Hubbard, the running back, who's the leading returning rusher in the country, and kind of started all this by calling Gundy out on social media, is continuing to at least monitor Gundy on social media. It's pretty extraordinary. It's not like he fired off one tweet and then said, okay, I better be quiet and fade into the background here. He's continued to say that, the foot is on the pedal, and he said that Gundy's apology video was a step in the right direction, but I think that there's still some work that Gundy's going to have to do to repair his locker room and to get people back 100% on his side here.
Pat Forde, I appreciate the kerfuffle. Not that I called you by your wrong address. Sports Illustrated senior writer Pat Forde here on the Rich Eisen Show. So, can you walk me through the timeline here between the two different videos, the one with Gundy and Hubbard, and then the one that Gundy, I guess, felt compelled to make on his own with that interesting sort of background behind him? Walk me through the timeline best you can tell, Pat.
Yeah, neither of them I don't think were cinematic excellence. But,
yes.
The first one was, I think, very hastily arranged, probably a result of, Gundy getting on the phone with Hubbard and saying, what are you doing, man? And then talking to the athletic department saying, we got to do some damage control here.
get me a video camera, get Chuba in here. I'll put on an Oklahoma State shirt. We'll say that, we learned something, and let's try to minimize the damage. And that video came out with Hubbard being the one who was apologetic and contrite, and Gundy just saying, yeah, well, that's interesting. I think I've learned a little something. And that wasn't overly well received. It ended with an awkward hug, and I think that most people thought that there needed to be a little bit more to it than that, and that's when Gundy came back in try number 2 to quell this, and his words were good in the second video. It's just it was very clear that he was reading it from a prepared statement. Yes. And so, maybe it needed to be that way because nobody trusts him off the cuff. I don't know. But that was then Tuesday, and now so far on Wednesday, no videos yet from Stillwater.
No, I guess I know that. Pat Forde here on the Rich Eisen Show from Sports Illustrated. Look, we're not expecting, college coaches to be experts on politics and things of that nature, or shocked that a coach might have a certain political bent, and that's entirely fine. This is America; it is a free country. That said, for the thing that I want to believe Mike Gundy, because I'm an optimist and I believe in the better nature of everyone. For him to say that OAN is an outfit that he had no idea where they stood on the issue of Black Lives Matter, or is an outlet that has no slant, no bias, it really strains credulity, to be very honest with you, Pat. So my question for you here is, moving forward, are coaches going to keep things to themselves if they believe it's something that's different, or what's the lesson here with Gundy?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the case. As I wrote my column, he's probably not the only coach that watches OAN.
No, I'm sure.
It's a fine news network. But I think the problem, is that his explanations say, for him to come out in April and say what a quality news network it is, and it's fair and unbiased, and they just present facts, and then 6 weeks later saying, I didn't know they reported on that. I didn't know they held those views. That's not overly credible. But I would think if I were a coach, that I would be pretty hesitant, at least, to be outwardly espousing much of any political views at this point. Mm-hmm. I think it's been great to see some of the activism and some of the stances from a lot of coaches out there in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement, in regards to police brutality, and in regards to the racial situation in America today. And I think those are all good things. But I also think that coaches who it may not be the most politically savvy of all people can probably get themselves in more trouble than they can do good with some of the things they're saying.
So what about the other side, the moral of the story for the athlete? Because we're also seeing that Chris Doyle, the longtime strength coach at Iowa, is no longer there anymore after past players were talking about being made to feel uncomfortable by some of his stances on the subjects of the day. He's now gone. And he was as firmly ensconced in the Iowa program as anybody else, not named Ferentz, I guess. And you see what Chuba Hubbard had to say on this subject certainly got Gundy's attention. Do you think that there's a possibility of players flexing some muscle here to get some changes that they never thought existed?
No doubt about it. We're seeing it happen in real time. It started Florida State. Some players called out the new coach there, Mike Norvell, on a statement that he made that was an exaggeration of his communication with the players, and then you go from there to the kind of just avalanche of criticism of Chris Doyle at Iowa, and that resulted in tangible change. He's out after being the right-hand man to Kirk Ferentz there, and now continuing with the situation at Oklahoma State, I think players around the country are looking around saying, geez, we don't have to just keep quiet about everything. That we are allowed to speak up, and we're allowed to have opinions, and we're allowed at least to call out truths as we see them. And that's one thing that I think we're seeing here is, like, the old line was always keep it in-house, don't say anything that doesn't reflect well on the team. Well, now it's like, you know what, if we've got bad things going on in our program and we know it, we're going to say it. And I think that's going to lead to a new level of accountability for coaches, that you can't act one way in public and then behind closed doors of your practice facility be a tyrant, be a bully, be in any way, insensitive to your players' either racial situation, socioeconomic plight, whatever the case may be. So I think that there is absolutely a new voice and a new power behind the voice for athletes.
Pat Forde here on the Rich Eisen Show from Sports Illustrated senior writer. So that said, I had my fun with Albert Breer earlier on the show. As you know, I'm a Michigan guy and he's an Ohio State guy. I told him next time he comes on, he's going to have to sign the Rich Eisen Show pledge. That we're not looking at it as a waiver; it's a pledge. His retort was, before I answer, you should make sure that there's no liability concerns, equal liability concerns in your own house. So I don't know. Is that going to be standard across the landscape for players to return? Pat, what's this all about?
Well, it wouldn't shock me if there's a lot of schools. Some other schools are doing it, yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if a bunch more decide, by July 1st, hey, we better have these pledges up and running, and call them pledges, even though they're clearly something more than that. I am sure athletic directors, university presidents, and their legal counsel are all on eggshells saying we are possibly walking into, a liability firestorm here if bringing back athletes doesn't go right. They're the canaries in the coal mine on this before the general student population returns. Most of them are basically feeling beholden to come back as opposed to being invited to come back, even though that's the wording on this, and this is all quote-unquote voluntary, but we know how that works. And so I think that they're going to look to protect themselves in whatever form or fashion they can with, whether it's waivers or other signed documents, just to somewhat shift some of the burden onto the athletes and off of the school if things do not go well.
So what do you think happens here, Pat? The University of Houston had a bit of an outbreak and then shut things down. I spoke to Brian Kelly about a month ago, and he said that, that they're going to put health and protocol issues in front of parents to let folks know what's going on, and he still didn't even know. That was about a month ago. I mean, what do you have for me? Do you think on whether this is a go and everybody's going to, Michigan's actually, just to use my alma mater as an example, is going to get on a plane and do open the season on time, maybe with no fans in the stands at Washington, but that's actually going to happen? Like a Big Ten at Pac-12 contest is going to happen on time and all that? You think that's the case right now?
I don't know.
Right.
This thing has wavered back and forth a couple of times, Rich. In late April, first half of May, we were like, there is no way football season's starting on time. And then all of a sudden, things started to look a little better from a national health outlook, and people started talking a much more optimistic game. And then it was like, yeah, we're going to have players on campus, and now we are having players on campus. But we're also seeing a lot of positive tests. We had our first game canceled today, an HBCU game that's been played between Tennessee State and Jackson State in Memphis for the last 30 years. They're canceling that game scheduled for September 12th out of what they said was COVID-19 concerns and problems. Number of positive cases is increasing in a lot of areas. We'll see if there's a corresponding increase in hospitalizations and in deaths. But, I just think that as this thing has ebbed and flowed, it's been really hard to have a definitive answer. I think we will play on time. I think there will be little to no fans in attendance. But even then, I still think if even if things are full system go by July 1st, August 1st could tell a different story. September 1st could tell a different one as well.
I guess if you think about it, Pat, the sport the sport and level of sport that could be most impossible to pull this off is college football, where you've got hundreds, right? Hundreds of schools. You've got hundreds of places. You've got places that may have certain protocols in place. You know, in the Big Ten are different from another conference that comes into somebody's building, and then whatever conference bubble community that could have been created gets pierced on the spot. Vectors all over the place. You know, the Notre Dame schedule is a perfect example where they play. It's like I say, it's like a United Nations of teams, different conferences, different time zones, all over the place. And maybe some conferences are ready to go and other conferences can't. And then how in the world does everybody play the same schedule, number of games? I mean, your head spins when you think about it. But they have to financially get going, though, right? They can't just forego and punt. That would change the finances of collegiate sports writ large for years, Pat, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. From a financial economic standpoint, this season is must play. Now, we'll see if health and safety concerns trump that.
Right.
But for now, that's absolutely the approach that athletic directors are taking. Like, we've got to play football. You know, we'll lose sports. You know, some schools may shut down, not necessarily just related to football, but, you know, if there's not fall semester classes, if there aren't people on campus, it's catastrophic for some universities from an economic standpoint. And you are correct that there are more complications and permutations related to college football than any other sport I can imagine. As you said, 130 teams just in FBS alone, all over the country. Some areas of the country being affected much differently than others. They are on campuses with thousands of other students, all who, you know, most of them come from all different places to get there. And then, you disperse to go play a game, and then you come back to the same campus. You know, I mean, it's going to be really, really, really hard, even without throwing in the face-to-face exertion of the sport itself and the contact level of it. You know,
exactly.
So, I mean, this is
right.
You know, this is tough.
So then I guess the final one for you, Pat, is when do you think the go, no go is going to be? I mean, here we are in the middle of June. We are seeing the NBA try it out, but they're creating their own campus, or we'll call it a bubble. They're calling it a campus. You know, baseball, there's actually some news on the front that I'm going to get to in a second, where both sides are actually, you know, the skies might be brightening just a slight bit. But you've got, you know, hockey's going to give it a whirl. The NFL's only got 32 teams. So what do you got for me on a go, no go, do you think, for college football here?
Yeah, you know, I mean, a lot of the people I talk to were happy to kick the can down the road on go, no go. And I don't blame them because they should, you know, and they kicked it till June 1. Okay, yeah, now we're going to have players back on campus. It's now middle of June. Maybe by July 1, we got a better feeling for how this is going. July 15th, I would say we need to know, okay, here's the schedule is going to be played as it sets, or no, it's not. So I would say maybe a month from now.
Okay.
You know, we find out whether we're at least starting on time. There's no telling whether we may be ending on time.
Pat, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. And let's stay in touch. Really appreciate your thoughts.
All right. Yep. My pleasure, Rich.
You got
Thank
it.
you.
That's Pat Forde of Sports Illustrated here in the Rich Eisen Show. I don't know why I said Yahoo. My bad. On his latest spot.
He was with Yahoo for a long time.
I know that. I know that. And I just had the Yahoo in my head from Thomas Morstead, and it's, again, a silent exclamation point, and it just screws me up. You know, again, when you think about it, the way that the sport is played, people on top of each other, when you have to, there's in college football, or at least college basketball, you got, what, 15 kids, 20 kids? College football, the number of kids, you were there the week that, you know, as the honorary captain.
Oh my gosh.
Number of kids that dressed
just for home games in college.
But you also saw the practice.
Yeah.
Where I spoke and blacked out while I was speaking. But you saw that Harbaugh went through and announced who was dressing.
Right.
Who was allowed to go to the team dinner that night, because they had made, if you will, the home roster based on their practice and all of that stuff. And that was a fun thing where everybody, you know, the position coaches got up and announced that who made it and who gets to go.
Because they had a good week of practice.
Right.
Yeah.
And you saw, so that means there's more than even dress.
Well, because you have all the walk-ons, the non-scholarship guys. Like college football rosters are enormous.
Enormous.
The one part about Rudy that is true. Like, there is a dress list for every game.
So and it was really weird that day when one kid who didn't make that roster that game, that everybody just started lining up at Harbaugh's office and putting their jerseys on the
they didn't
desk.
make a movie
that was
about that one,
really
Rich.
weird, and that made me nervous. I'm like, I flew all the way out here. I might not even have a game.
There was no touchdown, Jesus. There was no Golden Dome. They didn't make Did they carry the guy off the field?
They did not.
Yeah, did they carry? Hey, they carried him off the field.
I love the Spicoli-looking dude with the
full house
with the slacks.
Front.
I mean, no, you know what I'm saying? Like you could sit here and think college basketball. There's tons of programs there as well, but it's a smaller
15 guys,
right?
Yeah, 5, 6, 7 head coaches,
and just what a logistical night. At least the NFL's got 32 locations. Or the case, with the NFL, it's 30 locations because there's 2 stadiums that have 2 teams in it. Okay, what happened? What happened here with baseball? Okay, John Heyman.
There's some John Heyman tweets, yeah.
Oh, thank God.
They're talking. I mean, like deadline spur action.
Come on, people.
All right. MLB and Players Union are closing in on an agreement to play the 2020 season via players. Okay, from the players saying this. Okay. Deal expected to be for prorated pay and include expanded playoffs. So basically the players get their percentage that they want. The owners get the expanded playoffs that they want. As part of the pending agreement to play the 2020 season between the MLB and the Players Union, the users agree to waive any grievance. Okay, so now here we go. Why couldn't we do this 3 weeks ago? Why do we have to go through all this stuff?
Well, we know what Trevor Bauer says.
Where the commissioner's got to have egg on his face all over the place. When if they're like, Uncle, we'll give you the amount of games that you want at the rate that you are accepting, and we get the playoffs that we want, and you don't file a grievance against us, right? Then why couldn't that happen a month? And by the way,
we'll see how many games.
Hold on a second. The video we put out yesterday of me, people thought I was having an aneurysm.
That's good. Good video.
And hey, I might have been having fun and overreacting. You might think.
But we also really love baseball.
But what set me off was Jeff Passan saying to me that somebody who he has as a source that is right there, saying that something would get done and it would take about 10 days. And that's what set me off by saying, why can't you Zoom and do it in a day to set up the one final day that it takes to make it done? And apparently, from what you're saying, this happened face-to-face in Arizona. This happened where, according to John Heyman, yeah, that's it. The commissioner, I'm going. Tony Clark, what are you doing tomorrow? Okay. Well, I'm showing up. Okay. I'll sit at one end of the table. It's 6 feet apart from the other end of the table. And here we go. Jeff Passan. A new proposal's been sent to the Players Association. No deal done, but Manfred and Clark met. Significant progress considering where the parties were 48 hours ago. Great.
Let's go.
See, I knew KO. I believe him, and he believes it to his core. I knew my just thinking that life has got to be better than some evil people demanding that the game not be played, and they're fine with it. There are some, but I guess the moderates won out. So Keith is right that some guys said, let's not play this year, but somebody finally knocked their heads together and showed them, look, Keith Olbermann is saying, you're purposely burning this down and you think you're winning. Because he's right. The history shows that. And I was hearing that. How depressed were we when we heard that?
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, there's got to be a little bit of a flicker here. And then, Passan saying that somebody told him that the sport has to die before it lives again. And he thought that the sport died on ESPN when Manfred said, I'm not confident 5 days after saying 100% we're doing this. He had his bluff called. And owners should know, as KO was pointing out, you think you're winning when you are burning it down, you're not winning. So if they are eventually going to agree to what the players asked for and they agreed to in the March agreement, then why did it take so damn long? Who ordered the code red?
So Jason, Jason
that's
Stark,
what I want to know.
Yeah, Jason Stark is saying a driving force in the resumption of talks here is that he's hearing it wasn't so much that a group of owners didn't want to play, they didn't want to play and face $1 billion grievance. So they agree to play, and then the players file a grievance anyway. That's not what they want.
Well, so it's not my money. All I know is that the Yankees are printing money with that business that they and Jerry Jones have together.
Fact.
Naming stadiums and giving rights and all that sort of stuff. Okay.
Yep.
You know, your team owners are getting ready to sit down and watch Liverpool complete their dominance of the Premier League.
Domination.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not my money, but for what? To eat it for $10 million a club, $15 million a club, and get this thing done. Unfortunately, the idea of let's sit down, by the way, 2 weeks from now, pitchers and catchers could have been out there. This show could have been filled with who's going to win the East, who's going to win the Central, who's going to win the West. Could have been filled if they're so inclined, because usually they're not, to be very honest with you. Baseball players calling shows like this one to promote. Our friend Charlie Blackman, Alex Bregman has been they've been outliers to talk about the sport and promote it. Could have had that. Could have had all sorts of conversation over the last 3 weeks of pitchers and catchers reporting in advance of a huge Independence Day, which falls on a Saturday. Independence Day return. Would have been huge. I'm much happier bitching about what could have been, knowing that they're going to return, than bitching about what could have been after they've burned the whole damn thing down. Which they would have if they blew off the season, which it looks like they are not going to. Looks like, and by the way, this all good news of rays of sunshine or whatever, I didn't expect for these 24 hours. But as I said yesterday, it can be done. There's no reason for it to take 10 days. None. And it's not done yet, I know. I feel like this is like, buying a house. If anybody's ever bought a house or bought any, an apartment or a condo or whatever, you feel like, I'm going to get this place. And then something's going to happen the next day. It's like, oh my God, I'm never getting this place. And then you wind up getting the place more often than not. You're going to go through this rigmarole of negotiations, and good for Manfred for getting on a plane and going to see Tony Clark and say, let's sit down and talk this thing out. You give a little, I give a little bit. Especially since Dr. Fauci's saying don't play in November. You heard about that from the NIH?
Yeah, I saw that.
I would try to keep it in the core summer months, and it's what he said.
Don't let it get cold.
I've read that. I'm like, well, what about football? And the Pro Football Hall of Fame, when are they going to make the announcement of pushing it all to 2021? Which I hope they do. Boy, that's going to be.
I do too. So we could go.
That'll be a whole week. That'll be like a.
Well, because you got 20 from this year, and then the 7, 8 that they do normally.
The speeches need to begin now.
Well, they got to ramp that up to the afternoon. No more prime. No more night
ramp it to the afternoon. That's gonna have to be a 2-day event. That's gonna have to be 2 days. You can't fit in 25 speeches in one day.
To give everybody 10, you get 10 minutes.
You know who would revolt would be the older guard that returns. They would revolt.
You could
if everybody spoke for 30 minutes at a time.
Where they sit in front.
Can you imagine? All right, so baseball talking to one another. That's the way it gets done. Do you think they saw me saying you should Zoom them and do it? What the hell's the matter with you? Do you think I could? Can I take a little bit of credit here?
Well, let's see. That video did well, socially. So I think you can take some credit.
Got rid of the tuck rule.
I did. You're not lying. You're not lying.
Yeah, that video did
Fumbling
well.
into the end zone we're working on, Rich.
Did we get through this entire show without asking you a poll question?
We did.
He did, yeah.
Did you have one?
I did post one.
What did you post?
I posted. Let me find it. What's the best amenity of the NBA Disney bubble? By the way, split voting right now. So I posted it an hour ago. So broken down here are the options: barbers, chefs, and manicures and pedicures; movies, video games, and DJs; getting to go to other games; and the snitch line.
Snitch line. What's the best?
What's the best amenity?
I know my pick.
I'm going barbers, chefs, and mani-pedis.
That is leading right now, 29%.
By the way, great poll question.
Thank you.
We're getting to for the final 6 minutes of our show. I mean, that is split 20 down of this. When your poll questions are split by quarters.
It's great. 29% barbers and chefs, 28% snitch line, 23% going to the other games, and 20% movies and video games.
Now the DJ's not number one. Come on.
You know what we should do tomorrow?
I'm all ears.
Here's what we should do. Don Bowie, let's use the last few minutes of this show to have a conversation on this front.
We have a production meeting for tomorrow.
Let's, Mike, remember we used to have the rant line here on the Rich Eisen show?
Yeah, I have a drop for that.
Where we used to have people calling in and complaining about the week's events in the NFL.
Hey, Al Michaels here at Rich Eisen's Rant Line.
Time for a rant! What was he thinking? It's a really big rant.
Oh, my gosh.
Now. It's the rant line.
Because we did that on NFL Network. We used to have a rant line where people would call in and bitch and moan about something that happened in the NFL weekend, and we would replay it on Total Access on Monday mornings. And we were so new. I think we had like Mark Selleck call in, like one of our buddies who worked on the production staff. We had him like tell him his friend, like, hey, your line stunk. Have one of your friends call in. Or we may even had Mark call in once. But we set up a voicemail message here, right?
Oh, yeah. We had a phone line dedicated to that.
Right.
It was hysterical.
Right? And somebody called up screaming.
Somebody would come on and you guys would listen to him in the morning. It'd be like 4 minutes of some guy just going
The problem
up.
is that somebody would leave, would forget to hang up, and would take up the 4 minutes. It just
The whole thing.
It didn't work. It was a good idea. It didn't work. But what if we...
Live.
Hold on a second. What if the three of us spend 5 minutes of our day today thinking of something about the other and calling the Rich Eisen show Snitch Line and playing it on NBCSN tomorrow?
Okay, so hold on. So we're gonna snitch on each of us?
No, just calling in about something about this show.
I got something on Brockman already.
I don't like
he has no idea where I'm
I
going.
don't really like this idea.
No, this
It's
is
kind of like
funny.
it's like Festivus.
It's got to be fun. I have a funny one for him.
Is there a way that we could record this without the other one
you can
hearing?
record them on your phone.
Oh, so
And
we
can
should
send them to Don.
We do a voice memo and then send them in.
There you go.
Send it to Don.
Spend like a good 30, 40 seconds. We'll call it the Rich Eisen Show Snitch Line. Yeah.
So I can snitch on you about something.
And then we'll have people call in tomorrow and
about
say if they want to snitch on a friend, they call on the Rich Eisen Show.
I'm kind of worried about myself. I don't know what I've done bad that you guys could say.
Oh my God, I got stuff.
I mean, no, it's got to be.
It's got to be good and airing your grievances, and we'll
It's
send
gotta be
it.
funny too. Nothing like
funny.
personal.
Yeah, don't be
Like
personal.
around
No, that's
here.
why I got a perfect one for him that I'm gonna actually make fun.
And then we
of.
send it
You're
to
gonna love this,
to
Brockman.
Don, who'll send it to you, and then you play this.
I think Don gets.
No, I think gets it and sends it.
No, you have to play it, Mike. You have to hit play.
Then I'm gonna hear them all.
You would play.
Okay.
So
Don can
that's
play
what
him,
you
right?
Yeah. And we set it up with
don't
like
wanna hear
graphics, and that we do that on tomorrow's NBCSN show.
I think we should pick out of a hat of the three of us.
What do you mean?
Like you have to do like one because if we all do each one
I don't
for
like the
each other.
picking out of the hats. To be honest with you, I might have to call the snitch line later about that idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
How about
play
that?
The Festivus drop.
The Rich Eisen Show snitch line.
A Festivus for the rest of us.
Got a lot of problem with you people.
Oh, so Mike DeWine actually spoke. The governor of Ohio spoke about the Hall of Fame ceremony being endowed. How about that? Okay, so tomorrow's show, we've got James Conner of the Pittsburgh Steelers calling into the show tomorrow, right?
Indeed.
Who else do we have on tomorrow? I can never find
Eddie
this.
Olczyk.
Ah. Well, I mean, what's he going to say? He's basically going to say, 'tis the law, right? That's it? That's.
Yeah, we can also ask him about
Maybe
hockey
not.
coming back and maybe what else.
Should we ask him about the best fight he's ever been witness to? Since Hank just told us about when Jimmy the Greek slapped Brent Musburger?
Or part of. I don't know if Eddie was a brawler in his day.
Hasn't every.
Yeah, he talks about him on the Xbox.
And should we ask him about that unwritten rule that people are
fight.
allowed to fight in hockey? Like, yeah, it makes sense. We could do that. Wow. The snitch line. Let's do it. Where you can please make something about me. That'll make it interesting.
I don't want to snitch on you. Snitches get stitches. I don't want to.
But you know what I'm saying? Use it as like a grievance line because that's what people are assuming it's going to be. It's not going to be like, hey, you know, I watched the Spurs play ping pong. They were playing doubles. They're not supposed to. Hey, I just watched LeBron use the same deck of cards twice. They're supposed to throw it out. Like, that's not what I think people are.
James Harden's not wearing a mask, getting his beard.
Somebody took 2 box lunches.
I saw Kawhi leave campus. Just as a matter of fact, right before Game 6 is playing tomorrow.
It's like
nobody. That's what everybody thinks. The snitch line is going to be used for.
It's like the guy
to
that
me,
takes the water home in his bag.
What a great.
I got one for you.
And people could call up the show and snitch on another sport. Like, what do they have a problem with?
Let's do it. I'm in.
Because if people think it's going to be used purposefully to air a grievance, then we might as well turn our phone line into that tomorrow. Why wouldn't you tune into tomorrow's Rich Eisen Show? We're back on NBCSN. Thanks for taking us in on our YouTube stream and also on Sirius XM Channel 211. We'll see you at noon Eastern on Thursday.